Looks like everything's good. And it says we're live. Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Happy summer day. It's summer, right?
Is it?
Tomorrow, I think? Later this week?
Really?
With
I
summer
know.
solstice? I don't know. When is the longest day of the year? We haven't hit the longest day of the year.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow's officially summer. All right. So not quite summer yet.
And it's still 50-something degrees in San Francisco.
Gordon, you're still in spring mindset.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. I mean, I don't understand what the hell's wrong with this place.
Just because you want summer to come earlier?
Well, I'm actually nice. It was nice that we actually woke up and it was, blue skies for once. Like, there's a point where you just like, it's just depressing, the terrible weather.
You should never live in Seattle then, huh?
I heard that's a lie. Actually a lie. That they just tell people
It does rain
that
a
it's
lot.
terrible.
It's pretty gray up there, actually.
Really? Oh, that's terrible then. Yeah, that'd be terrible. No, I definitely would not want to live there. Yeah, we are a little low energy today after the 3-day weekend, if you had one, where you're at. So I think we're all kind of like, everybody's just kind of like out of it.
We're here.
Tired.
We're ready
I'm
to talk.
Just tired. We are ready
Gordon,
to talk.
wake up. You need more coffee.
I got to wake up. You know what I want to talk about, though?
What do you want to talk about, Gordon?
Is there some reason why, and I don't understand this because I'm not an iPhone person. I don't think either of you are either.
Nope.
Is there a reason why iPhone people never change their damned ringtones or notification sounds? Like, they all sound the same. Like, have you ever like customization? Like, I have customized every sound on my phone because that's what you do.
Can you on an iPhone? I'm not.
Yeah, you can. You can. I mean,
I
tell
don't know.
me.
I mean, we're not iPhone users, so we're not the best to say if you can.
I
What
just
you
don't
can do on an
understand
iPhone,
it.
right?
I don't understand it. Why they don't change it, and I don't know.
Think it takes a little more effort, and I don't know how much effort a lot of iPhone users are willing to put in to do such things.
You think that's it?
I'm
But I
checking
mean-
right now.
I just don't understand because I thought you want it to be personalized, but they all sound like everybody's got the same iPhone ringer, the same iPhone, text message sound, ding,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Like, they never change it. What the hell's up with that?
Tim Lau, friend of the show, Tim Lau says yes, you can do
You
that
can
on
change
an
it.
iPhone, but why would you get an iPhone if you want to change anything?
That's true. I mean, maybe that does speak
got
to
him.
the mentality of people who. I just don't believe it though. But then the reality is, every time you're around iPhones, like, they all sound like they make that ding, and everybody has to look at their phone.
Ding. Yeah. No,
So-
I know exactly what ding you're talking about.
I just want to have a random app ding sound that just randomly makes ding sounds
Yeah.
I
on
mean,
my
just
phone, so
down-
that people have to look at it.
Just download an MP3 of that, and then you'll have it on your phone, and you can just play it.
No, but it also needs to randomly play it like every sometimes 1 minute, sometimes 3 minutes, just to mess with the people that never change their damn. I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Gordon is revealing his true colors as a chaos.
I'm trying to
man.
wake up here by being upset about somebody. Somebody's suggesting that we have a.
Quick, somebody
all
tell
rant
Gordon
edition.
about consoles.
Wait, is it this?
Yeah, see, like,
Yep,
and like
there we go.
everybody,
Yeah.
anybody listening to this had to look down at their phone, like, hang on, I got it. Oh no, it wasn't me. Just change your damn ringtone, whatever the notification sound, though, right? How hard is that?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with consoles. You can buy it if you like 30 frames a second in that new game. Yeah, you just do that. You should just do that all through the podcast. Everybody listening in their car, like, hang on, I gotta. Wait. No, it wasn't me. Right? They all sound like that. Like, nobody ever changes. I don't understand it.
Oh, that is pretty funny. We got a $5 super chat from friend of the show, VC Jester. Thank you so much. It said, I have to use my hotspot to watch this stream. Oh, thank you.
Oh.
Because they have a parental filter on this hotel. So, Elena, watch your language. So,
Oh wow, a parental
Sorry,
filter.
it's too late. I've already
Yeah.
sworn a
Yeah.
bunch of times.
too bad.
That's a bummer. That's a real bummer.
Check your phone.
Yeah, check your phone. Hang on, I got a text message. Oh no, it's not me. Yeah, we're gonna be talking about Intel's
All right.
Rebrand.
I'll stop with that.
and also I have successfully done some testing on the new AMD Phoenix CPU in this 14-inch Razer blade here. And I also have to call out this 14-inch Asus with the
It has a
Raptor
screensaver
Lake in
going
it.
on now.
Is it? Yeah, because it's an OLED. It's a beautiful OLED.
It looks like ink is being thrown at the screen.
It is. They are, but they're both that class of more compact but powerful laptops now that I love. I love it. If only they could get the power bricks down and weight. But basically, discrete graphics. Both these have 4070s in them, and they also have fairly powerful CPUs too. And of course, the people are more excited about the Phoenix with the Ryzen AI, and we're going to talk about that in the show too.
Yeah.
But
Fun
we're going to
stuff.
be low energy here.
No,
For
we're
some
high
reason.
energy. We got to bring it up.
Is there anything to get high energy
Oh,
about?
hold on.
Yeah.
Our boss just texted and
dang.
said we need to be high energy. So
I swear to God, you could just do that all day, and
I know.
they
I'm
all
sorry.
fall for it.
somebody already told me to stop. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
really? Yeah.
I have to go at least,
Because they keep looking at. They can't. They have to look at their phone, right? Like, because I know I don't have to look at my phone because that's not what my phone.
Oh man.
text messages.
Wait, check this. Here's a good one. Somebody just reminded me in chat.
You know what? I feel like this is all part, like, I mean, obviously, it's not the reason why it came into being, but can you imagine like a bunch of Apple execs going,
Oh.
you know what? We've noticed that people never change their ringtone notifications, and everyone just keeps looking at their phone. I bet if we made a watch for them, then they would buy it because that way they would know the notifications are actually for them, and we would make a lot of money off of it.
So the thing
got
is, I
mail.
was trying to identify what speed it was negotiating.
Can you tell just audibly?
I mean, if you were badass, you could. I could back then, but I don't think I can. That's not. I don't think it's 28.8. I think that's a sub 14.4. Like you were a real serious badass, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's negotiating 9600 right there. Oh no, that's a USR negotiation. No, that's a Supra, and like,
Wait for it.
You've got mail.
Oh,
Sorry,
lol.
this YouTube video that is what I'm playing has
all the old
1.2 million views.
for.
Just listening to that sound.
The dial-up
That's all it
sound?
is. Yeah.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, I want to know if anybody can actually recognize what it's negotiating there. Because as you know, old analog modems, you would dial up and then they would like figure out what the highest speed they could.
Yeah, Ziv says, I just updated Gordon's firmware. Yeah,
Don't you think that's a 9600? I think that's definitely not 14.4
I don't know.
and up because those got really weird. But
What do you mean by weird?
well, they got weird because it was like the they ran it like all standards, so they ran it like wireless standards. You know, like our wireless standard doesn't work with your wireless standard, so there were cheap implementations of 14.4 that didn't work with others, and then there were 28.8. It was just everything you've come to expect of the technology industry, where they have to fight each other to make things incompatible with each other, probably because there's some royalty or something. So
Yeah.
so your modem might not actually, even though it was 14.4, if you were like me and you had the cheap ass, they had a really cheap ass USR modem everybody had that was a poor person, and it was like you had to tether it down, otherwise it would float away because it was so light, because there's so little material in it. But it would not negotiate with some of the Ford. And then if you did AOL or you did CompuServe or whatever, you had to find your number, and they would like, oh, if you have a Supra or you have a USR, you call this one, or you have a, there were better real modems, and it's the
Gosh,
classic.
That brings me back.
Yeah, no, that's just, and then you think for new people, it's like, oh, it's so terrible how things things are about 1,000% better than it used to be. So that's just the way it was, where they would openly fist fight each other over stuff like that. So, I mean, think about like
Crazy to me.
fonts. Think about stupid fonts, right? TrueType. Apple and Microsoft got together to create
Oh, that's
TrueType
right.
because like, oh, we're sick of your crap Adobe, right? So they yeah. So okay, now I'm awake a little bit.
All right, Wake. Yeah, there you go. You got your rant started off early.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I think we're good. I think we're ready.
We're all working.
Is everybody ready? Everybody got a coffee?
It's summer.
I don't know why I did this.
Summer's a good time to
It's not
be
a coffee sign.
out in the sun, playing a baseball game on your tablet, I think, or handheld.
Yeah, I don't know. All right.
See what I did there? Not actually outside playing baseball.
Yeah, you're just
Sitting
playing
outside.
outside on your tablet.
Yeah.
Or,
No, your
yeah.
handheld.
Oh, your
gaming
handheld. Oh, yeah. There you go.
That would be the way to do it.
All right. I think I'm ready if you're ready, Gordon.
I'm ready.
Wait, you got to mute your phone.
Anyway,
Ah,
I gotta.
God dang, you're
check
not
my-
ready. You got to mute your phone.
I really have to change my thing so it makes that sound.
You should. And they're like, "Oh man, you're an iPhone user."
Yep.
And you're like, "Ha, gotcha,
Gotcha.
gotcha,
Tricked you.
gotcha." All right, cool. Let's do it.
Ready?
Yep.
In this episode of Full Nerd, Intel tells Rocco to leave the I, take the Ultra. AMD's first. What? No, does it make any sense?
No.
You don't know?
I have no
Oh,
idea.
come on.
Rocco's Modern
Take-
Life.
Leave the gun, take the cannoli.
I need a cannoli right now.
In this episode of Full Nerd, Intel tells Rocco to leave the I, take the Ultra, and AMD's first Ryzen AI CPU. Come on.
You have to
Take
tell
the
this
gun
reference.
or take the cannoli, leave the gun. Welcome to episode 262 of The Full Nerd. I'm your host, Gordon Mong, with Elena Yee on the screen to my right.
Hello, everybody.
And Adam Patrick Murray is somebody who has never watched The Godfather 150 times.
Not 150 times. I did watch it again recently, but I don't remember take a gun or a cannoli line. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's after they had to get rid of Paulie. Remember?
I remember Paulie. Yeah, but no, I don't remember that line. I'm sorry.
Just
I'm a horrible Godfather fan, I guess.
Well, here's the thing. Not all of us put movies, strip the audio from movies and listen to them like podcasts continuously like Gordon does.
that's
true.
how you remember every single thing about them. And that's exactly what Intel did to the i, though. Just like Paulie, they got rid of the i. So Core i7, by the way, breaking news. Not that
breaking. All right,
just
okay,
news.
okay. Yep, just news.
Intel is dumping the i, or getting rid of it. just
Officially.
officially getting rid of the i and Core. So example is Core i9 no longer will be called that. After Meteor Lake launches, it would be called Core 9. They will, of course, stick with the tiering you're familiar with after, 12 or 13 years. So you will get Core 3, Core 5, Core 7, Core 9. No more Core i3, i5, i7, i9. And, of course, they're also adding Ultra. So you will get a Core Ultra 9 as an option. If you get a higher, better CPU, you will get a Ultra 7, Ultra 5. And so there's non-ultras and there's ultra parts. The other big news that nobody's talked about that I actually think is more significant for most of the people that are, civilians that are not following all the model numbers all day, is they are going to de-emphasize the generational talk. So we have gone from 7th gen, 8th gen, 9th gen, 10th gen, 11, 12, 13, 14. Well, 13. Going forward, after the launch of Meteor Lake, they will no longer emphasize generations.
So, well, yeah, and I'm showing the slide right here. It says shift away from using generations in quotes in front of Intel Core brands.
Right.
Does that mean they're going to completely get rid of it and not talk about it at all, or they're just going to de-emphasize, like, oh, you know what, we'll call it 14 gen, but it's kind of like code names, right? Like Raptor Lake, it's de-emphasized. They don't put Raptor Lake anywhere in the marketing materials, so maybe it'll go that same way where it's 14th gen is discussed, it's just not on the box.
It might be discussed when they're talking to the press or when they're briefing people, but they're just not going to simply call it out the way they clearly did when 12th gen Core i9, 12900K. That's just not going to be exposed. Like, that's actually on the badges. If you look on a lot of the laptops, you look at a lot of desktops, it'll actually say the generations on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually look back to see when they first introduced it that I know of. Looking at the reviews for Ivy Bridge, and also having covered that CPU, I don't remember them calling it 3rd gen as a big deal. When Haswell showed up, they started calling it 4th gen. So from Haswell, we went to 5th gen, 6th gen, blah, 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 blah. And then now they're just going to kind of get rid of it. And I'm not really sure why they're going to de-emphasize it. It will still be in the model number. So if there's a generational application to the CPU, it'll still be in there.
So it'll be like a 14, 14 850HK or whatever, So the 14 will signify the generation, right?
Sort of, but see, the interesting thing is all of the talks of Meteor Lake, which we have all been calling 14 Gen. I don't think it will actually come out as 14 Gen because it looks like, we've seen leaks on Meteor Lake that have come out on, benchmarks, and it's like a 10, it's like a four-digit number, and it looks like it's like a 1,000. So they're going back to 1,000 again almost.
Huh. But on laptops specifically.
Well, it'll be laptops first, I imagine.
Yep.
So, I mean, we don't know. All the rumors are that there will not be Meteor Lake on desktops right now. So probably, and which makes sense because it does look like it's a part optimized for laptops. You'll probably see, Core Ultra 7, and then say like, I think what was the leak, like 1035, something like that, 1035U or whatever the heck it is. So that's probably what you're going to see on a laptop. On a desktop, though, I think all the indicators are that we're going to see Raptor Lake refresh. It may actually be called 14 Gen. Did a video with this with Wendell from Level 1 Techs. And actually now I'm thinking about it, probably Raptor Lake refresh, which is what everybody's expecting, just basically higher clock Raptor Lake. Possibly more efficient because they fixed some things that didn't work in the original Raptor Lake. That'll probably be, it probably will still be 14 Gen. And I think it'll probably be Intel 14 Gen Core i9 14900K.
No I. You just said the I.
No, it'll have an I think. i9.
What?
You think
I'm confused now.
Yeah, you think this new branding is not going to apply to desktop?
I think it'll, because what they are officially saying on the record is that after Meteor Lake launch, it's gone. So I think Meteor Lake will probably launch after Raptor Lake. If it comes out before, then I guess all things are off. But if we see Raptor Lake refresh, aka 14 Gen drop beforehand, they could still, in keeping with this branding, keep the Core i9 14900K. And then when you get to Meteor Lake, when you really get the new stuff, that's when they could drop the I.
That'd be weird.
It would be weird, but
goodness.
I mean, it's always like that though, because I mean, especially when you have Intel that has such a huge slice of the pie, they have a lot of parts that they ship into different areas or segments, as people like to call it, and that means they oftentimes have a lot of overlap. Remember where there was a while where we had Comet Lake U and we had Ice Lake, so we had 10th gen laptop CPUs that were new 10 nanometer as well as old 14 nanometer.
Mm-hmm.
Comet Lake U had 6 cores. Ice Lake had 4 cores.
Mm-hmm.
They were completely different chips, but they were both 10th gen. So yeah, and you had 5 digits on Comet Lake U, and you had 4 digits on Ice Lake. And then we sort of, they sort of had this thing where, things just don't line up perfectly. So there'll probably be a mix up. So if Raptor Lake refresh comes out and it comes out as 14 Gen Core i9 14900K, and then say a month later we get Meteor Lake, then they're just going to overlap for a while. Then next year, hopefully, they sort of line things up to make it a little more easier to understand. The funny thing is Intel has said that, and I'm just kind of guessing that Raptor Lake refresh will be 14 Gen. Intel has said like they're dropping this is their public messaging. So really, I don't know what the hell's behind it. The reason they're dropping the I and also de-emphasizing the generational thing is they want to make things easier for people to understand in response to people that have said,
wait, what?
well, I mean,
after the 5 minutes you have just taken to explain some of this, I don't see how this move is not guaranteeing more job security for tech journalists.
Yeah, no, I think it's always, anytime you have a change, it's hard for people to understand. Their public message is, this is what people have told us they want us to do. Make it easier to understand.
Do you remember? Didn't AMD say that too when they released the decoder wheel thing? Wasn't that the thing? So I wonder if they're also looking at that and being like, "Oh man, you know what? All bets are off. Let's just go for it."
Well, I think it's who knows? I mean, it's classic where you do. I mean, they obviously have talked to people to see how they would react to it. Most people are like, "Oh, we're okay with it. Can I have the free lunch for my?" You go in to do the thing with the mirror. Yeah, sounds good to me. Where's my free lunch? Right? Okay. You'll say anything just to get that free lunch in those. What the hell are they called? The I don't My brain is still not.
Those
working
focus
right.
groups?
The focus groups. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually done focus groups. We did it for
Oh, really?
my previous employer, and we were all in that other room, and we were all doing the exact same thing that everybody does. And you're screaming at them through and it's soundproof glass, because then you can't hear people. They can't hear you insulting them. Like, how stupid are you? Right? You know.
Wait, you were doing the focus group, or you were in a focus group and people were yelling at you?
No, they were. So we had the focus group where you basically get the people that come in for the free lunch or free meal,
okay.
and then you're in the.
So you weren't there getting the free lunch?
No, we weren't. They didn't give us anything, and then we're on the other side of the glass. Like, we were trying to understand what the focus group was saying, and then of course it is a soundproof room because you're screaming at them like everybody. Like, I'm sure somebody at Intel's like, what? This makes no sense. You want us to what? So I'm sure they did focus groups. Oftentimes you use that to sort of, as we know, you do a focus group, you make recommendations, you have the report, you have the data, you show it to your boss, and then your boss decides what they want to do, right? So that's that's the way it works.
I'll say real quick, because it feels like there's a couple different things going on. The first one, and I think the easiest one, is like dropping the I off of everything. I don't care. Does anybody care here? Is anybody like...
Some people are really they're really married to that I, like they're kicking and screaming, but it's just simply changed. Like, no, don't take my blankie. No.
Like, whatever.
Hold up. One question. What does the I even stand for anymore?
I don't know.
Like, I feel like they must have started it because it stood for something. And at this point, it's just gotten lost.
I always felt like it was like, because it's a lowercase I, right? Like, I always thought it was like iPhone, iPad, iMac, like an Apple thing. Like, it was just the cool trend of the time to put like a lowercase I in front of everything.
I think it predated the iPhone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
well, but I mean, there were things before the iPhone that had the small I, the iPod.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably
iMac.
a reminder of Intel, like one more way to get like Core i5, Core i7 in there to remind you it's Intel, right?
Oh. Dr. Ian Cuttress, Tech Potato, is in the chat. Hello. Says it's no longer about I, it's all about you.
Ultra.
Yeah. But I mean, but back to the I thing though, like, yeah. I mean, do you think that's going to cause any confusion? Do you think if they just drop the I from, certain stuff, like anybody would be like, oh man, I don't know what to do?
No,
right?
not at all. I think people see Intel, they see Core, they see I can afford 7, I can afford 9, but I'm definitely too good for 5, right? So I want the 7. That's the way. I think that's how people are conditioned to think on their computers.
And then the next step is the generational thing. I mean, I think like you said, it can be sticky, right? I mean, we've had technically, the different parts in the same generation. It's like, okay, well, you're just going to lump it all up and call it whatever generation. But at the end of the day, does that even matter? Like, it's all about the performance, right? Who cares what generation it is?
No.
Like, or what do you think?
So I think when you're the size of Intel and you sell the huge amount of CPUs that you do to the entire world, they're not watching 2-hour podcasts and compiling charts for Reddit to understand it. They really are. They go like, oh, I have a 6th gen laptop, right? Oh, that sounds pretty old. They're up to 13th gen. I got to buy, and that, I think for most average people, they say like, oh, damn, 6th gen. That's like a way of saying you got a 2016 computer.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a 2023, and it's an easy way for a consumer to go, my crap is old, right? So that's, to me, it's more significant because for the average consumer, it was really easy to go, it's like, and it was really easy. We all did it, right? You got like a 4th gen laptop here. It's like Caswell, it's okay, but clearly a 13th gen or something brand new is going to kick its ass. It can be so much better.
Yeah.
So it was an easy way to do it. And the thing that kind of gets me is like, why, if you go away from that, it kind of sort of implies that maybe we're slowing down a little bit, or maybe it's just going to be messier down the road because, again, this like that a whole ultra and non-ultra, as they start to tile on different chips in different IP into the CPU, they probably just can't say, you can't go by something as dumb as the year or generation. You have to have these different gradations. Like more AI performance, more graphics performance, more this performance, right? So,
But yeah, I guess, I mean, because once again, we saw this at AMD when they were like, hey, you know what, you could have a Ryzen 7000 part that was still Zen 2 based,
Right.
or Zen 3 based, or like, so it's like it still is Ryzen 7000, even though it's different products. So this is kind of Intel doing the same thing, right?
I don't know if it's quite the same. I mean, AMD was attempting to find a way to make the numbers make some sense to people, and it really confused even people who follow the numbers. And I also think part of AMD's thought process is like, we're going to have to sell second gen Ryzens alongside, the newest stuff.
Yeah.
So we have to have the same. We have to have a uniform model nomenclature to stick with going forward, because I think most consumers like reliability, like things that don't change. Like if it just clicks up one click, it's instead of like things are now totally different, they name it something.
Yeah.
I think that confuses people and makes them.
Well, but
less
it
likely
was
to
that
buy it
same thing of
sometimes.
like, hey, if you had a Zen 2 part and it was Ryzen 6000, like if you have a Ryzen 7000 and a Ryzen 6000, even though maybe the Ryzen 6000 part was better than the Ryzen 7000 part, most people would be like, oh, it's Ryzen 7000, I want that one. So I feel like that was part of it too, right?
Yeah, that's part of it. But also, when most brands are trying to establish messaging to the broad part of the market, and if people, they need to understand, they can't always, you can't walk everybody into, I have to have the newest and fastest thing out there, because that's not how people buy things. They go like, oh, if this is a Ryzen, 6000, but it's a 6040, I know it's not as good as the Ryzen 6090.
Mm-hmm.
And the Ryzen 6090 is like basically the newer, like a Zen 3 core, and this is a Zen 2 core. And the AMD would justify the fact that, well, they're both 6000 parts because instead of an older number, because we've actually increased the clock speeds on this. So,
Well, no, I thought the first digit was tied to the year.
yeah, they did try to. I'd have to get out the decoder ring.
We have the
It just-
decoder ring right back there.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean that. I'm gonna go get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I was just gonna say that just listening to us discuss this again, I've seen some chatter in the chat right now about how, like, those of us on the stream and listening to the stream are more aware of these kinds of things. But the fact that we're even having this conversation where you're like, wait a second, we need to get the decoder ring. I think the relevance of this conversation is that a lot of us are informal tech support for friends and family, and even sometimes random strangers where they're like, what do you do for a living? Oh, I have this question for you. Like how hard it is for most people to get on board with this. Like even people who used to be super into building their own PCs, or was, at one point informal tech support for their family, like who have been busy with other things. Like if you don't keep up with this, it takes a little bit to get up to speed because it's getting so complicated.
Yeah.
Because like once you know the system, okay, like yeah, it's clear. But not knowing the system, you're just like, wait, what? Wait, why is this one got this number, but also this ending string of numbers, and this one has this? Like the amount of questions I've had to answer in regards to that is a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm showing you on the stream the decoder wheel that they introduced at the original Ryzen launch for the Zen, the 7000 parts.
Yeah. Desktop.
Desktop parts, and this was actually applied only to mobile, so not to desktops for this decoder ring, which is where you're going to have a lot more overlap of parts. And the first one was, so I just made up a Ryzen 7, which is a 2023 CPU, Ryzen 9, and then 9 for Ryzen 9.
So 7 means there's 4 digits. The first digit signifies the year.
Right.
So
Year,
Ryzen 7.
and then
Second
Ryzen
digit
level.
is the level. Yeah. So 359.
Well,
7,
actually,
yeah.
there was
No?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Oh.
8, 9.
Ooh.
And then the third digit was the microarchitecture. So there was Zen 3 Plus, Zen 4, and then 5 would indicate higher segment, and then HX for the wattage. There's E for low wattage. There was C for Chromebook. U for, ultra low wattage, and then HS for, little less than wattage. So it is again, this is really tough for any company, not just not just AMD, but Intel as well, because here they're basically shaving off that I and adding an Ultra, and people are still up in arms about it. So
I mean, once again, I like the I don't, whatever, but I think it's more like, hey, without generations, if they're going to de-emphasize a generation, how can you keep track? But who knows, because maybe different processes in a generation is going to continue to take place. But then, yeah, so that third part is the whole ultra versus non-ultra naming,
right,
which they haven't said specifically what that means, right? Like what an ultra is going to signify.
Yeah, they haven't. Is it the AI? Is it graphics?
They haven't said specifically, but I think one of the articles I read, I think from The Verge actually, said that Intel had hinted that it could be related to like the level of graphics. So you could see like ARC level graphics in something with the Ultra designation. I feel like they're going to have to be very clear what that branding stands for. Otherwise, that's just going to make it even more complicated to figure out what the naming system means.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially because they're going to have the VPUs, and I don't know how much of the VPU performance, which God knows what the heck the VPU even stands for, but it's the AI performance of it. I think that's probably going to matter too to people. So I don't know. It's, it's confusing, but it's not that bad. And, again, I think people are pulling their hair out. I think, we've gone through this over and over and over again. It doesn't matter because this is not for nerds that are compiling massive lists on a forum somewhere to so that you can discuss it with other nerds. This is for the average person.
Yeah.
And that's what they're trying to communicate to. So,
well, but I think so. The question is for the average person, how much more confusing does this make, and how much intentionally is this? I think that's so. We got a super chat from Chaos the Bomb. Thank you so much. Said gave us 11 Canadian dollars. Oh, I like it. Says cheers from Calgary. Hello. How often Intel changes sockets, wouldn't de-emphasizing the gen confuse customers more and cause more headaches around buying motherboards? So I guess that's for the desktop side, obviously, but I mean, I think there's other questions about, are they trying to actively confuse people to try to steal their money from them? Like, what is your thoughts on that?
Why does everybody always say that? I don't think so.
Because it's true. It can happen. Companies have done it.
I guess it just seems like, the whole like actively trying to confuse people. I will say, and again, I think I brought this up last time, but I'm bringing it up again. When they originally introduced, because for the people who are freaking out and think this is too big of a change, originally it was just Core, very, very limited amount of chips for Core, which is the laptop part, and then Core 2 for desktops. It was Core 2, I don't know what the heck, 68. What was the original Conroe? I don't remember what the number was, 6800 something. There was no Core i3, Core i5, Core i7. That came along with Nehalem. And at the time when they introduced it, because everybody was familiar with the model numbers, which in itself was controversial because originally it was Pentium 4 2 gigahertz, Pentium 4 2.5 gigahertz. And then it turned into Pentium D, whatever model number, and 506T or whatever the hell it is, these random model numbers. They came up with Core i3, Core i5, Core i7. They explained it to us like, look, it just easily communicates to people entry level i3, mid range, and then high end. And everybody was like, well, this seems really bizarre. It doesn't make any sense. But again, every time people are going to complain about it, especially media analysts, it doesn't matter because it's what you will get used to. Because we went from Core to Core 2 to Core i7, and not a bump in the road. The average person just goes out and they buy their computer and they go like, I see Intel, I see Core, I am a 7 person. I'm not poor, so I'm not buying a 3, and I'm not rich, so I'm not buying a 7. That's, I think, or a 9. I think that's really what they think people understand. As far as generational thing, it kind of speaks to how it doesn't matter that much for desktop. Most people who are buying desktops are already enthusiasts at this point. or gamers, and I do
Or they're buying
understand,
pre-built.
huh?
Yeah. Or they're buying pre-built.
Or they're buying pre-built. So I do understand. Like, could you really go out and buy a motherboard and say, would it work? Did it always work? Could it say it works with 13th gen? I don't really like. It almost feels like you're going to have to go with this new naming scheme and say we get post Raptor Lake refresh. You probably just have to match up some other marker. I guess you'll have to look at the actual CPU number. So say if the next gen of CPU has a like Core 9 and then 1090, then you just go it works with 1000 series processors. So you would look at probably the model number, right?
Yeah, I was going to
Seventh
say
generation.
that the model number being present or not present, I think is really going to make or break the system for normies, right? Or at least normies that care enough to dig into some of the specs to understand it, right? So that's already a subset of the population. Because as you were saying, Gordon, I think you're right. There's a lot of people who are going to look at the price of the item first. So usually a laptop, right? Because most of these days, these days, most people are just buying laptops as opposed to desktops. So they're going to say, I have $500 for a laptop. And then from there, they're going to say, okay, like of all these models, which one's the best for my money, right? Like, oh, this one has a 3 in the number, and my friend says that that's not as good as something with a 7, and then they'll buy based off of that. But for the people who do care, I think if that product number is there, then that'll make it a lot clearer what generation you're getting, or how new it is rather. And then if you're a desktop buyer, whenever that goes into effect, then it'll also cue you to make sure that the motherboard you're buying is compatible with it.
Yeah. I mean, you almost kind of have to be that way anyway today, but you just can't pay attention to the generation. It'll just be the model number. It'll be 1000 series if they're going to really de-emphasize it, like not call it 13th gen, right?
Yeah. Well, even if they de-emphasize it, it doesn't stop those in the press from still making it clear to people the context of what their purchase is, right? So people are still probably going to look up, like, what does it mean that, this part number and what is this like? I'm going to look at the review or at least a news story about it. And in that context, then it's still our job as, people who report on technology to say, like, this is the 15th generation of, Intel's core processors. They don't use that naming anymore, but, this is what preceded it, and this is what we anticipate coming after it.
Yeah, it will be a little messy because to me the biggest thing is losing the generation thing, because it definitely was easy to understand for most normal people.
I mean, and I think it was way better than trying to remember like the process type. Like, I always had a hard time remembering Raptor Lake, Coffee Lake, all that stuff. I always was just like, I'm just going to focus on the generational number.
Yeah, the code names are.
Yeah.
I mean, it can fall in line with, frankly, what I think most people do with AMD. Because you go 7,000 CPU or 6,000 or 5,000 CPU, the difference, right? So 7,000 series.
Yeah.
I don't think people generally would call Ryzen, 7th gen, right? They go by the model number.
I mean, it's another way of saying 7,000. You say, nobody would call it 7th gen, but I mean, Ryzen 7000 is essentially saying it's a generation of CPUs.
Yeah. But I mean, it works fine there, so you don't really.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what will work out too on desktop when you're worrying about buying a motherboard
for Intel.
1000 CPU, 1000 series, or 2000 series, or whatever it's going to work out to be.
Dr. Ian Cuttress says he thinks, unconfirmed, Ultra is going to mean fully featured, as in memory, VPU, PCIe, etc.
Huh. Yeah, I guess so. I
Unconfirmed.
No, I mean, it makes sense, right? Because I don't know how much they're going to get crazy with tiling, but to me, what's interesting is going forward, they can really put what they want on these chips. So maybe like Ultra is the first kind of like word. Maybe somebody was joking on Reddit. Well, actually they were crap talking, but it could be Mega, right? It can be like, you could like change, because you do have different things you can play with the CPUs depending on what sells or what customers want. So it's going to be a brave new world as we get there, because they can mix and match everything. So
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, I get it. In others, it's if you're used to the system, it's probably in some ways more of a more difficult adjustment.
Yeah.
Also, did they mention anything yet about signifiers at the end, like K's and F's and
Not yet.
all that kind of stuff? Because some people in the chat are saying like, yeah, that's not very intuitive, and how are they going to simplify that?
I think they're keeping it. So, I think again, it was The Verge who reported they had spoken with one of the Intel spokespeople, and they said the spokesperson said that those signifiers are going to remain.
Yeah. So I mean,
Let's
that's
see
where
if
they
I can
can.
find it.
Well, I mean, well, I can't see K going away because K has been a big seller for them. I mean, every time you talk to Intel, they also say like, yeah, K's been a tremendous success, and we sell way more K CPUs than we ever expected to. So
So the quote that's in the article says, "Folks who look for HXK will continue will continue to go drive products for those segments," which is not a confirmation that they're going to keep the naming per se, but right above that quote in the article are some like sample names that Intel provided to The Verge to illustrate how the new naming scheme would work, and those samples have like H and K and U on them. So it seems like they might keep that for at least the foreseeable future. So that'll still be there.
okay, no, that makes sense. Although you like it's weird. You get into those weird ones like T.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I do wonder then, because there's the core and then the core ultra. Are the ultras the only ones that are going to have K options, or like I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah.
The unlock part.
Anyway, so I mean, I guess more to come, right? I mean, this was just kind of the first wave of, hey, here's the official information, but nothing. I mean, but there's more to be figured out.
I mean, clearly when they roll out the first ones is when they're going to make their splash. So, but again, it's not a big deal. The eye is gone. The generation thing, you'll just have to look at the actual number of the CPU, and then it is entirely possible that if Raptor Lake refresh comes out ahead of Meteor Lake, it could still be an i9 1400K. I could see that happening because honestly, it sort of continues on, and it would make more sense because it is closer to existing parts and something forward looking. So,
and also, I mean, even though it's confusing for us because we are paying attention to both worlds, there's a lot of people who just buy laptops, they don't care about the desktop part, and vice versa. So
yeah, yep, definitely.
Okay. Well, you know what? Sometimes I feel like I just need an AI to tell me how to read all these things. Does AMD have that in their Ryzen AI processor?
They do. In fact, AMD is very proud of touting today. By the way, the embargo is lifted on the actual performance numbers on the Phoenix CPU and this laptop, this Razer Blade,
and others,
and others. Ryzen 9. This one has a Ryzen 9 79. I better look at my chart.
Oh, you get your decoder wheel.
I got to get my decoder wheel. 7940HS.
So it's Ryzen 7000, 9 meaning the power. 40 means it's Zen 4.
I'm going to make one. I'm going to make one of these babies.
Yeah, use the decoder ring on the laptop we're going to talk about.
Did they actually follow the decoder ring, or did it just say, no, this is just stupid?
I mean, I would hope so. Hope they didn't throw it out the window.
So...
All right, Gordon's getting out his decoder ring.
So it has a Ryzen 7940HS, which is 7 for 2023, 9 for Ryzen 9, correct? 4 for Zen 4, 0 for lower segment, although I don't really see this being lower segment, and then HS 35 watt TDP part.
Is this 35 watt?
Yeah, because it's a lower.
So wait, what does the lower segment versus higher segment mean then?
That's
all right. We need a decoder ring for the decoder ring.
I guess there were 5 because the only options on this wheel
on that
0
on that fourth digit
and 5. So if this were a 7945 HS, then it would probably be just a higher clock one.
Huh. Okay. Yeah.
They actually followed it. That's a good thing, though. They actually followed it.
Yeah.
Oh wait, did they follow that on the? Actually on this chart. Is my is my results for the AMD Ryzen 9 7945HX. Let's make one of those too. Oh, okay. That actually works. So 7940.
Gordon, you need to flip this around so like we can all see like what you're doing.
I don't think you can. So 79, that one actually has a Ryzen 9 7945. Let's make one of those.
This reminds me of like displays back in the ancient dark ages where we all had to go to stores to buy things. Or you had to call some hotline for mail order. And like, displays, they'd have like different interactive kind of things. Like that would be perfect for a kid to like mess with as their parents were shopping.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's true. Did you call people though, or?
I didn't. My mom did.
Did the clerk eyeball you to make sure you weren't breaking something as a kid? Because that's like,
oh, that happened to me. Like, I remember I actually have a memory of like being 4 years old and like touching a shoe in Macy's and having the salesperson like yell at me, and I just like burst into tears because like the dude was like gigantic to my 4-year-old self, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
Did he feel bad?
No, he yelled at my mom when she came up.
Oh, okay.
Like, why are you yelling at my child? He's like, your kid can't be touching stuff. She's like, I'm not buying anything then. So we left.
Yeah. Oh. All right.
Were your hands exceptionally grubby? Because something about kids, like they got that Spider-Man hands, like they could like grab onto something and you could just like on the wall.
Kids have Spider-Man hands?
No, really, because kids got just the grubbiest hands in the world. Let me tell you this. I haven't had little children in a long time, but you would just like, they could palm a basketball just with the stuff on their hands. Like, anyway, I did make a 7945HX. So now we actually know. So the 7940, which is the Phoenix CPU, 8 cores, versus the 7945HX, which these are the numbers that I've on a laptop that I've actually shown. I haven't shown these off yet because it got delayed by my adventure with COVID. That is basically a desktop 7000 part jammed into a laptop, just like Intel does with its HX parts. And so that's the difference there. So Dragon Range was 16 cores, mostly a desktop part, whereas the 7940 HS lower segment is actually you call it a more true mobile CPU, because it is monolithic on that, whereas the other one is a chiplet design.
Well, so there's two things to talk about here. I know you want to talk about performance, but there's also the AI stuff. What do you want to start with?
Well, let's go through the you got to go through the medicine to get to the fun here. So let's.
You don't have to.
Yeah, we could just talk about it. Because if you do the fun stuff first, we'll blip through these quickly.
Please.
Adam is like, he's sick of the charts. The reason why you got to do the charts is like you got to show your homework, man. You can't just like jump to the end.
I know, but we're doing a whole separate video.
You can't
on this.
Netflix this and go to the end. Like, oh,
but there'll be a separate video on this.
Are we? Oh, okay. Well, let's just we'll start off with Cinebench R23.
Weren't you there for it?
All right, do slide one.
We haven't done it yet.
We haven't done it yet.
We will be doing it.
So let's just do Cinebench because it's interesting.
Yes.
Basically all core, default run, and actually next to it you also see the ZenBook, the Asus. This one's a beauty with this OLED panel. Asus ZenBook Pro 14 OLED, and that has a Core i9 13900H, which is Raptor Lake, 14 cores, 6+8 configuration. And I would say the Ryzen 9 7940 does pretty well considering it's 8 cores versus 14. A lot of that is because, Intel generally runs hotter, makes more heat, and can't sustain the boost for that long. So some of the performance drops off. I'll get to that at the end. But, but clearly these laptops are not going to really hang with the bigger, fatter laptops with more core counts. The HX for the Raptor Lake with the HX has 24 cores.
You're doing multi-threaded. Sorry.
This is multi-threaded for the multi-threaded, and of course Dragon Range. And I just want to point this out because this is a long time coming. The Dragon Range with 16 cores in Cinebench is actually the top dog here at 34,600 versus 30,300 for the Core i9 980HX. But the 8 core and the 14 core HS parts are, or H, pretty reasonable performance for a multi-core laptop, and actually. You on the bottom of this chart, you actually see a Razer Blade 17, which is only an i7, but it is a much larger laptop, and the performance of the ZenBook Pro is actually above it. Next, we're going to do the next one, single-threaded performance. And this is actually a pretty nice showing for AMD, I think, here. Although on top is the MSI Titan GT77 with the, it's a big, giant gaming laptop with an i9 13980HX cranked up. That is the top of the list, but honestly, they're all pretty close here. And the Dragon Range actually runs pretty close. But the things that's impressing me is the Razer Blade 14 with the 7940HS is actually outperforming that 13900H. Because typically I would have thought Intel would have an advantage here. It's not a huge advantage for AMD, but they're actually getting higher single-threaded performance in Cinebench on that Ryzen 9 7940HS over the 13900H. And they're sort of similar class laptops, although the Asus is a bit heavier, a bit lighter. So about 3.6 pounds. Why don't we do...
Let's go to Geekbench. Everybody's favorite.
No, let's do all right, we'll do Geekbench.
Gordon tries to evade.
I was going to do Crossmark because there's some interesting numbers here because their actually responsiveness on that 7940HS is actually higher than the 13900H. And there's it's this very interesting kind of weird flip where Ryzen 5000 laptops, Ryzen 6000 laptops typically could not hang with Intel laptops on single-threaded performance because Intel really, really cranks the clocks up. They got that high turbo boost, and they typically are in front of AMD. 7000 on desktop, we saw that kind of, mostly go away. And you're actually kind of seeing that where the responsiveness of the Ryzen
in Crossmark
is Ryzen 9 7940HS is actually better than the ZenBook Pro 14. Now, I'm bringing this up because Intel is a fan of Crossmark. I introduced Crossmark when I introduced Geekbench because AMD likes Geekbench. But here we have actual proof that AMD is actually outperforming and very close to the Intel laptop in this benchmark that is that Intel basically was like, hey, you should run this. And again, AMD was like, hey, we should run Geekbench. So we'll do Geekbench next.
Everybody loves Geekbench, right?
Geekbench, single-threaded performance, I'd say it's kind of, the interesting look here is, again, the Ryzen 9 7940HS is dead even with that Core i9 13900H in single-thread performance. More cores, though, still give the advantage to the Core i9 13900H, but single-thread performance, again, I think has been the valuable message with 7000 on desktop, and we're seeing that also materialize on laptops because now we're seeing, look, also, again, that Dragon Range, it's got the highest score in Geekbench here, which is probably why they liked it. It's not that much higher than that Core i9 13980HX, but single-thread performances are all very similar, whereas typically Ryzen 5000, 6000 would be behind it. And they're also, look at that. Look at the Geekbench performance on the Core i9 12900HX, 1800 versus 2000 for that Ryzen 9, as well as 2000 for that Core i9 13900H. So they're actually above the single-threaded performance of a 12th gen at this point.
Yeah, but Gordon, where's my MacBook? They're all going to lose to a Mac.
I didn't put the MacBook in here because I should have put it.
Wow, because you were scared.
You want to look? It's still lower. It is actually. Do you want me to actually look up the performance here? I could look it up.
Gordon, I think you're scared. You don't want people to know the Mac's going to be top of the chart.
All right, let me look up Geekbench. Let's see what I recorded for Geekbench. Jeez.
But that's on the M1.
No, yeah, it's on M2.
M2? Oh, okay.
Because I have the so Geekbench I recorded for the MacBook Pro 16. That doesn't have the higher GPU in it, but this test doesn't really care that much. So it's 1961 for the M2 Pro, and the multi-core performance is 15,000, and that is 8+4, I think 8+4 for that part. So it's kind of dead even with that ZenBook, which is much smaller and much lighter, and of course it's outperforming that Razer Blade with the Ryzen 9 7940HS. And of course,
wow,
it doesn't even hang with the...
See, I knew there was a reason you to put it on there.
Yeah.
And you didn't even use the M2 Ultra.
I didn't even make a CUDA thing here, but like... So I ran Metal and CUDA for both of these. The MacBook Pro, 52,000, 53,000. The Razer Blade 14 and the Asus ZenBook Pro, smaller, lighter, GeForce RTX 4070 laptop, 127,000, 126,000. So more than double the performance of that Pro. So yeah, this is
Not the Ultra.
That's why I didn't put it in there, because then it takes a whole bunch of extra talking through it. We'll blip to the next one. Photoshop. Actually, I was actually very interested in Photoshop because generally single-thread performance matters here, higher IPC, and it actually favors the Core i9 1300H. And again, I think that's the direct competitor because of the size and weight. Again, 13900H is a good part, and it's slightly faster than the Ryzen 9 7940HS in Photoshop. But again, that is really good performance for that Ryzen 9 7940HS, because Photoshop generally tends to be single-threaded. It often favors Intel, but I would say this is nothing to get excited about. You can't lose with either of these in Photoshop. So, and again, this is kind of the messaging I'm seeing. Most of the 7000 Ryzen parts, single-thread performance where it would be lacking in a Ryzen 5000 in a laptop or a Ryzen 6000. It's very competitive, right? Let's do Lightroom Classic though. Lightroom Classic tends to favor more cores, and Intel wins here because it's got more cores. 1270 versus 1008 for the Razer Blade 14 with the Ryzen 9 versus the Core i9 with 13900H.
Bigger bar better.
Bigger bar is better. And you can see most of the gains there are in the passive performance, because that's where more cores matter. So the passive performance is just simply helping Intel with 14 cores versus the 8 cores of that Ryzen 9. It's really weird to see. It's a little flipped where, AMD's always had more cores. Intel has more cores now, and they're sort of like they have this benefit of more cores. So people would complain about those E cores. They're not just there for the ride. They're actually improving performance across the board most of the time. And I just want to throw in a couple GPU benchmarks in here just to give people an idea of where 4070 goes, because everybody will scream about 4070. Why don't we do...
Well, I got Time Spy already loaded, so...
Okay, we'll do Time Spy. This is Time Spy graphics. This is only the graphics performance. It is a synthetic benchmark, but it never changes. It's very accurate. It's very repeatable. The Razer Blade 14 with the Ryzen 9 7940 and the RTX 4070 laptop at 140 TGP, 12,054. The ZenBook Pro 14 OLED with the Core i9 13900H. Who cares? This is a GPU benchmark with a GeForce RTX 4070 at 110 TGP. So we're getting lower wattage because it actually is a lighter laptop. 3.6 pounds versus 4. They're in the same ballpark. 12,054 for the RTX 4070 and at 140, and 11,303 at 110 watts. But I think what's interesting to look at is the performance of those older laptops. Look, big ass fat MSI GT77 12 UHS. That's with a 12th gen Core i9, an RTX 3080 Ti with 175 watt TGP, and the fans cranked up. You're basically looking at about 13,600. And when you go into a smaller frame, you go to a Razer Blade 17 with a Core i7 12th gen 12800 with an RTX 3080 at 165 watt TGP, 13,000. So it's interesting that the 4070, even at the lower TGP in the smaller laptops, they are hanging right there with much larger laptops. And of course, 4090 is a beast. Yeah, I know you'll say it's not a 4090, but 4090 laptop is what it is. So a lot of performance. Let's do, how about last one, Adam?
Yes.
Octane, because I got them all. So I think it's very interesting, and I've colored the bars all green here because NVIDIA simply rules laptops. And again, this is it's a Octane bench. It's testing RTX performance. So yeah, by the way, it's not going to run on ARC. It's not going to run on AMD. Discrete graphics, 394 for the 4070 at 140, 391 for the 4070 at 110 watt TGP. But again, look at that RTX 3080 Ti in a big fat laptop with the fans cranked up to heavens. 175 watt TGP, 419. This 4070 part is, despite the narrow bus and all those other kind of criticisms you have of it for content creation, is actually a pretty decent part. And this is not looking at gaming stuff. This is looking at content creation. So, and of course, 4090 is kind of insane, basically twice as fast.
Wait, for Octane?
Octane Bench.
The 4090 on this? Oh, twice as fast. Oh, okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
it's a Razer Blade. Okay.
Yeah, so the 4090 is 4090 laptop is actually double the performance of the 4070 laptop
Got it,
in
got it,
Octane
yep.
Bench.
Sorry.
So it's just worth it.
The question I have for you, Gordon.
It's about AI.
Well,
No?
no. It's funny, on this show, you're always the representative of like the big muscle cars, just the crazy powerful systems. Who cares about heat and
Yeah.
wattage and any sort of that stuff. I'm curious. Well, why do you love laptops so much, and why specifically a 14-inch like this?
Well, I love laptops because when I use my laptop when I'm away from my desktop, I bring it on the road with me. I go into different places. I use laptops. I like the 14-inch laptops because, typically for me, I get a U-class laptop like this. You get basically atrocious graphics. You get, reasonable CPU performance, and that's it. You trade everything for the weight. With these laptops, again, this is 4 pounds. This is 3.5, 3.6 pounds. You're getting really close to where you're getting, 14 cores, a 4070 laptop. You're getting 8-core Ryzen, really efficient, and you're getting 4070 laptops. So you're getting to the point where you could actually go on the road and not give up the compromise of having discrete graphics, which has always been that bummer for. It's always been like, if you want to go for weight, you give up performance and graphics. And that's actually been one of the really strong points of Mac, because you actually get very decent graphics performance out of the Macs, the M2, M1s. And for PC, we're getting way, way more performance than we are getting out of those Macs. And we're actually getting it down to very reasonable size and weights. These things, I actually put this next to 15.6-inch laptops, and it looks like you basically cut almost 1.5 inches off the sides of that laptop. So,
Tim Lau's asking, sure, they're lighter and smaller, but what about the bricks?
yeah, the bricks that's my problem, is the bricks are still, it's 200 watts for this one, 230, I believe, for this one. They're reasonably sized, but they're still a little heavy. That's the thing that kind of kills me, is I always weigh the laptops with the batteries too, but it's significantly heavier for this thing. I can basically use damn near a phone weight charger to charge a U-class laptop. The power consumption on PCs are still not great, and that's definitely an advantage Apple people have on us, because they can run on 100-watt power bricks. They give you 140 watts. Honestly, you can run 100 watts on the MacBook Pro 16, or the MacBook, even the one with the extreme part in it, because they are just very, very power efficient for them. I will say the power efficiency here isn't necessarily the CPU, not on the AMD side, but it's the graphics card. The GeForce cards are still at a disadvantage in power efficiency, although it's gotten a lot better, because 40 series is significantly better than 30 series in power efficiency, right? That was their big gain, and it is getting, you can get a Raptor, you can get a 14-core Raptor Lake with a 4070 laptop with the performance of a 3080 Ti practically in a 200-watt power brick, whereas that would take a 280 to 330 watt power brick on that big ass giant laptop. So you are getting a significant power gain, probably not as much as people would hope, and then that's going to be the thing that kind of kills you. I mean, like Ian, he'll go on the road with his 14-inch laptop with discrete graphics, and then he'll take a lightweight power brick, hoping to run that way. And it's a bummer that power bricks have not gotten smaller and lighter.
Yeah, people are asking about GAN chargers. Why aren't they the normal?
Because they're more expensive. We're getting. I saw MSI actually has a GAN charger they're including in some series laptops now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But how much wattage though?
Oh, same wattage. They can basically.
Oh, so like still equivalent, so like 200 watt. Because I feel like if I remember right, you wrote an article for PC World saying people shouldn't. And I think was your opinion to trade down to a GAN charger instead of using the OEM part?
Well, my argument for that is because when I wrote that, the only GAN chargers were 100 watts.
Oh, okay.
Or 60 watts. And I think the messaging from laptop makers was, hey, you can bring our 17.3-inch gaming laptop and use a GAN charger with you on the road. It's like, well, yes, except that this thing just drinks power and you're making a serious compromise in performance. Like, to me, it didn't make a lot of sense. Like, if I'm going to haul this 6.5-pound laptop somewhere, I probably want to play a game on it. And you're not really going to play a game and then try to charge the thing on a 100-watt GAN charger. It just didn't make any sense. It's just, their whole lot is like, oh, you can go on the road and do Office and Word with your GAN charger instead of having the big-ass power brick. Yes, but then I would just bring something like a U-class laptop, right? Because why haul 3.5 pounds of hardware around if I can't take advantage of it on the road, really? Mm-hmm. So that I think I thought that it was a disconnect. We are getting higher wattage GAN chargers. Apple has 140.
Looks like 200 is
I'm thinking
the
PD.
top right now.
Yeah, for GAN chargers, you're getting higher. You're getting closer. I think the MSI one was a 270. It was a decent sized GAN charger. Razer Blade, actually, give them credit, they actually have been using GAN chargers in their higher end SKUs too. And the only negative is they're very compact, but you don't really save a lot of weight. So it's nice that you're not having a 330 watt power brick that's this big. It's just like maybe 3/4 of the size of it. So there's still a lot of weight. They haven't made a weight reduction. And then of course USB PD is another cuttlefish. That's
probably, for most people though, when they're packing, they're not trying to pack like a backpacker. So the weight is probably a little bit less of a concern, and it's more about the actual physical space it's taking. So I mean, even that reduction.
Yeah, no. Well, and also it's a nice thing. To me, it's nice because, Razer Blade charges a premium for its laptops. To get a GAN charger that is, I mean, they're 330 watt that comes with the Razer Blade 16 is really, really compact. And like next to the classic 330s that you've seen used for like the last 6-7 years, it's a significant smaller power brick. And it's just nice because you've paid all this money. You're at least like, wow, look at this power brick. It's really small. Because it's funny to get one of those 17-inch laptops and poof, like it literally the size of a brick.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're basically carrying another laptop.
Yeah.
You're carrying another laptop weight with you, essentially, with some of those.
Yeah, I mean, some of those bricks, they weigh as much as a laptop. I mean, they really do. They literally, it's crazy. And if I'm not going to, if I don't need all that performance, I could see why you don't want to haul it around.
Well, do you know where I do need performance?
Where?
Is in all my AI stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah, so,
all of it.
All the AI. So the cool thing about the Razer Blade 14 with the Ryzen 9 7940HS, lower segment, is it actually is remember, it's a 8-core monolithic part. It has integrated graphics, APU in it. Oh, I didn't run I'll have to run 3D Mark and then see where it gets next to a Steam Deck. But it actually has the first chip from AMD with the Xilinx FPGA. Someone correct me if I got that wrong, but basically it's a Xilinx AI processor built into the CPU. AMD was quite proud of the fact that they basically bought Xilinx and then jammed this thing into a shipping processor in an incredible short amount of time. So the problem is, how the hell do you benchmark any of this? I actually have some, AI benchmarks. I do consider AI, even though I'm doing it in air quotes. Topaz, I didn't really bother here because I knew it wasn't updated to support the Xilinx processor. I don't really have any tools that can really measure the performance of it. So I did do the one thing that I think it does help, because I was talking to Ian about this. Like, if we
actually did make a video about it.
We made a video about this.
Coming out on Thursday.
And the question is, because one of the cool features of the Ryzen 9 7940HS is it supports Windows, God, am I going to mangle this? Studio Effects? Visual Effects. I better find this out before I get yelled at here.
Oh, you mean Bill Gates is going to call you up? Or send you a text?
Oh, you send me a text.
yeah. Bill Gates is like, hold on, you just called it the wrong thing.
Yeah, so it's Studio Effects. So what Studio Effects is Microsoft has rolled in a lot of the AI features that kind of wowed people that NVIDIA has been doing. So NVIDIA Broadcast, you can have it do this eye correction. So it makes it look like when you're looking at the webcam, it fakes your eyes to make it look like you're looking at the webcam. I use it. I actually kind of like it because a lot of times
I hate it.
Well, that's because you're a video person. It makes it instead of people.
It's creepy.
No, but when you're actually doing a video conference and nobody's staring at you, it really is like, it's like sitting in the room with your kids and they're looking at their phones. You're like, are you listening to me? Because that really does bug the hell out of me sometimes.
Yeah, but you're faking it. How's that even any better?
Well, because if you're looking at your phone, hide it underneath. If my kids could look at their phone, but their eyeballs are looking at me, I'd feel a lot better. Would you feel better?
Really? Even though they're just faking it?
No,
Yeah,
that would make me even angrier.
Oh, come on.
That they were spending that much effort to pretend that they were paying attention to me.
Elena, how many
instead of
times
just actually paying
have you-
attention to me.
How many times have you been on this podcast and you're looking at your webcam to be polite, but you're not like, I don't like, what the hell's Gordon talking about? He's just talking about something stupid now. Funyuns, Grape Fanta, whatever, not paying attention.
Grape Fanta.
Like you're not paying
You're talking
attention,
about Grape Fanta.
but your eyes pretend like you're paying attention, but internally you're like, gosh, what am I going to get for lunch today? Right? I got to do
always
something.
thinking about
I
that.
wish he'd stop talking, but I'm going to look at the screen. That's the same thing. Anyway, it does that effect. So the Windows Studio effect will do the background blur. It'll do the auto follow you. And, of course, the fake eye effect, which you've been able to do in broadcast for a little while now, is now actually being done on the Ryzen 9 7940HS, run apparently off of the Xilinx processor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wow, that's kind of cool. And I understand it if you're getting a laptop, like a U-class laptop where you've got no discrete graphics. But I thought it was like, well, if I paid for the GeForce RTX 4070 laptop GPU in here, why would I use the Windows Studio effects and use the Xilinx part instead of just running it on the GeForce part, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, why? It's like you have double duty here. And Ian said, like, well, for power. And it's like, oh, okay. So I was like, I actually did want to look at the power consumption of the laptop running Windows Studio Effects on the laptop using the AMD CPU only versus running it on broadcast. So is it that much of a difference? Is it worth it? So what I did was I actually took the laptop and I fired up broadcast. So broadcast, well, where should I start this? I actually started with the Windows Studio Effects using the Ryzen CPU. So I turned on the fake eye effect. I turned on the blur. I didn't do the follow camera thing. I just did the blur and the eye thing. And then typically what I might do is look at the power consumption at the wall, but I was like, let me get a little more closer to reality here. So on the same laptop, I basically monitor the power consumption. So I could look at it in milliwatts or watts. And with the Windows Studio effect on and using the Ryzen 9 with its integrated Ryzen AI, the power consumption was about 12 to 13 watts. So I basically fired up Zoom, and then I had it doing the blur. Instead of having Zoom do the blur, I was having the Xilinx processor doing the blur as well as doing the fake eye effect. It's about 13 watts.
The whole laptop, or you're saying you just looked at the?
No. So that's the drain on the battery. So if you're monitoring the drain on the battery while you're doing a task,
okay.
Because my argument, well, obviously,
usually you like to go at the wall because you can't. You're not going to pay your power bill just from your CPU draw, Gordon.
Well, I mean, that tells you different things, though. But the one thing about the battery is nice is that when the battery goes to zero, you're done. You're kaput. So I think that it's a very real world. If you're getting a 13-watt drain, you could basically, how long your battery's going to last, right? So then that's real world. And so that's actually very, very decent. And you turn off the AI effects, and it was like a watt and a half. So we're talking about really minimal performance hit from running the fake eyes. What do they call that? I don't know what.
Yeah,
crazy eyes. I don't know what you want to call it.
Crazy.
Yeah, might as well.
The fake eyes effect and the blur was about a watt and a half on the Ryzen 9 with the AI.
And sorry, real quick, were you plugged into the wall, or were you running on battery?
No. So this
is
battery
running
only.
on battery.
Because I wanted to see, like, because again, you have a laptop and you're away from an outlet, you're in the backyard and you are doing a Zoom call you want to know how long it's going to last. So the battery, that's the ultimate tell is how much hit it on the gas tank, right? So once the gas is gone, you're over. So then I went ahead and I disabled the studio effects, and then I fired up the GeForce RTX 4070 laptop, and I turned on broadcast, turned on the fake eyes, I turned on the background blur, and then I went back into Zoom, started another call, and you could guess once you fire up a RTX 4070 with its graphics, hey, you know, they've made significant strides in efficiency on this 4,000 and 3,000, but the power consumption was about 30 to 40 watts. So on the battery. So if you're looking at a 30 to 40 watt drain on the battery versus 13 watts, that is a significant difference in power. I will say the quality from looking at it looked better to me on broadcast, but at the cost of 30 to 40 watts, you're not going to be running that RTX card for a 3-hour Zoom call, right? It's just not gonna last. That's a significant drain on a battery at 40 watts. So I think that's actually one of the cool things we're seeing so far, because you do get that. Are we going to see other AI performance tests? I think we will once we get more applications that support the Ryzen AI processor. There's more things coming. They've said they actually have made an argument that you could do local image recognition on this. They actually have a demo you can download and compile and run yourself versus doing it in the cloud. And one argument for doing it on client, so again, because AMD is very hot to try, like, hey, we got our dedicated AI processor. We're the first ones with it. If you do it on your laptop or your desktop, well, they don't have a desktop part yet, but if you do it on your laptop, it doesn't mix any of your photos in with the cloud, because it is a little scary. You throw all your images up to the cloud to do image recognition. The AI then builds that into how it's recognized the other images. You don't really have control over it. So that's one thing they would argue for why you might want to do it locally. So you have complete control over it. Might be faster on the cloud, might be richer, but what the hell is that AI doing? Because you're uploading it up there, or they analyze. Are they sure they're not going to keep it to make other references? So that's one of the arguments for why you do want a client having.
Which
AI
actually,
processing.
you know, Elena, I know you are definitely think about privacy a lot. Is that something you would rather do? Like, hey, you know what? I'm going to do the image recognition locally instead of throwing it up to the cloud, and who knows what they're doing with my images.
I mean, I think that's definitely something to think about. But I mean, let's be real. I do use cloud backups for the photos I take on my smartphone. I don't really take anything beyond cat photos, honestly. But I think if you're somebody who operates as most people do, where you have your stuff backed up to the cloud, I feel like that's a concern that's really going to be. Maybe I'm projecting a little too hard, but I feel like that's more of a concern of people who are doing things they probably shouldn't be doing with those images, or they're working on NDA content. Like, I feel like it's pretty. You're going to get pushed more to the extremes with that kind of thing. I mean, obviously, there are some people who are more privacy minded. And if you are already living a life where you're not using cloud backups, then yes, that makes sense for you. But I think for most people, even those who are more privacy concerned, like, I don't know if I would be like, yes, absolutely, this is 100% what I would be going for.
Okay.
It also depends though. Like, I mean, again, I only take pictures of cats. So like if I wanted AI to like make my cat like actually, do something affectionate looking instead of just being like an angry ball of fur all the time, then like I don't care if the cloud uses that and replicates that for other purposes.
Yeah.
But if it's like my newborn kid, like yeah, maybe I would be a little like, I don't really know if I want,
Well, I
that
guess
to be reused in perpetuity.
I've always come across a lot of people who put privacy shutters on their laptop, and I've thought the same thing. Like, wait, what are you doing that you don't want people to see the laptop? And they're like, oh, I just, I don't want people to hack in and see my camera, and I'm just like, really? Oh, okay.
Wait, are we talking about the privacy shield for like people on the airplane seeing your screen,
No,
or like
on
just
the
like me
webcam.
taping?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I absolutely tape my webcam.
Wait, so okay, so by that logic, what are you doing, Elena, that you don't want people to see that webcam?
I have seen videos of people who have used rats to like spy on people while they're sleeping, and that is just so creepy to me. Like, no, thank you.
Did you say rats?
Remote access. I forget what
It's an acronym.
the acronym stands for.
Huh. Okay.
Wait, hold on. With that, you got somebody messaging earlier. Sorry, had to play the iPhone. Yeah, I mean, real quick, we did shoot a video with Ian. He was in town for the AMD thing, so we got 2 videos actually. But the AI one is going to be going up sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So and yeah, I mean, because I think it is something, at least for us, that we really want to look at is like, okay, AI is a big deal, especially right now. Whether it's here to stay, I don't know. There's questions or whatever, but obviously a lot of companies are putting AI features in their hardware. I mean, AMD has literally put an AI accelerator in their CPU. So how do we benchmark? How do we show somebody like, hey, you know what? You should definitely care about this, or man, if you get this AI feature rather than this AI feature, like how do you handle that?
I think it's going to come down to what application you're running, how you use it, and whether it applies to it. Like, obviously, if they have it in here and AMD gets, Adobe to support the processor and some functions in Photoshop or Premiere or whatever, that's probably the best way to measure it. The problem is it's going to depend. Again, if you're doing Topaz Labs, which I've been doing for, many, many years now, that is AI. It's exciting, and, it may not run on this processor. It's weird. We're going to have different AI, different places and different applications to measure it. And how do you determine what is simply better, right? Like, the GeForce is, you do Topaz. I don't even bother to do, I used to do a CPU-based video conversion, and it was like, this is a waste of time because it would take like 10 hours to do a CPU-based on desktop.
Mm-hmm.
I could do it on the, back then I could do it on a 2080 and 2080 Ti, and it would be like, an hour or 40 minutes. It's just silly to do it on the CPU.
Well, I mean, and that's the other thing too. We always get people who are like, Gordon, why didn't you do this benchmark? Why didn't you do this benchmark? I mean, the amount of people who are going to be using this for AI, I guess it depends. I don't know. I don't got a sense of like, oh man, everyone's going to be using AI, so we really need to test this and benchmark it. But is that worth the time over doing like VR? People are always yelling about like, oh, we need to do more VR benchmarks, things like that. Like, are there more people using VR than AI? I don't know. Like all this kind of niche use case stuff is interesting. It's a brave new world.
Yeah, I would argue.
Some would say it's the next war.
I mean, but AI is not going away, though. I mean, does anybody here think it's going to go away anytime soon?
No.
It's going to be. It's going to be.
I mean, it's hot right now. It's definitely the buzzword. There's definitely a lot of money and a lot of investment and a lot of talk around it.
Yeah.
But unlike VR and unlike crypto, I think this has legs to it. There's actually applications, like real world, pragmatic, like normal people can see the application of it. So I don't think it's going away or going to just be floating around in the background like a hot buzz, trend type term.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and as we see more and more applications for consumers, it's going to get exciting. It's going to be weird because I can go in and do a clip on my phone. I can just grab an image. It'll automatically clip it for me, and I can move it to wherever I want. Like it used to take really hard work in Photoshop.
Yeah.
Pain in the ass to clip it manually, and I just click my pen on it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm personally thinking of all the AI uses. I mean, obviously a lot of people talk about ChatGPT, but that's not client based. You can run things like Stable Diffusion on the client, right? I'm trying to think of like client-based stuff versus cloud-based stuff. I know that Adobe Generative Fill, that's client, right?
Yeah.
So
they have some neural filters that are also client-based too, and they're going to add more and more. I mean, Adobe's they're the last remaining killer application, right? So it feels like they are going to not let somebody else beat them to the punch, I would think, if I were Adobe. And could you imagine what it's going to do to all these creative apps with photos and videos and everything? It's going to be crazy. So how it applies to consumer, then it comes down to the same old question we have all the time, because everybody thinks like, oh, Puget Bench for Premiere is what I should care about. Well, it's one thing you want to care about. You may actually do something in Puget Bench that's different in Premiere, and then actually the other thing might be faster, right? Mm-hmm. So it's entirely possible in the future you're going to want a computer with basically multiple AI processors from different brands because of who gets support. And then it's also gonna come down to the classic thing of like, well, who throws money at developer relations? Apple, Intel, Nvidia, AMD coming on there. So if you go out there and you do the work for them, you help them come along. But the strength with AMD here is they got Microsoft. So basically, any Ryzen 7940HS, any Phoenix processor with the AI processor should be able to do this eye removal that was only available with broadcast before, or not removal, but eye refocusing. So,
yeah, sorry, Ian said the actual name for it. I can't remember it now.
Oh, what is
It's like eye gaze correction.
Crazy eyes? I think sounds better. Because it does. Because sometimes it doesn't work. It doesn't work 100%, which is what drives Adam crazy. Because it's crazy eyes.
I mean,
No,
uncanny valley.
it's more like because I know you're not looking at the screen, but it just looks like you're looking at the screen. And I'm like, I know he's not looking at the screen.
You ever go to so the other thing is like when you do those company meetings and the big boss is talking, you're like, oh, but if they get offended if you don't look at the screen, so that's a perfect application for it. You're like, no.
Need a new boss.
Watching YouTube videos while the new boss is talking. My crazy eyes is making me look at it works great.
We're not talking about
I don't
Brad.
know. I don't think I'm gonna be interested in technology until they have like a googly eyes variant.
I think they
I'm
do.
Sure, I'm sure somebody's got it. Just ask Mark. I'm sure Mark knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Mark
true.
has
He
fun
probably
with
would.
those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else to talk about this laptop stuff, Gordon, or should we move it on?
No, I think we can move on, but it's exciting. Again, first CPU with the
AI
dedicated AI processor. Obviously, Intel would say we got CPU-based stuff, and NVIDIA would say we got GPU-based stuff. So,
yeah, we did have a question earlier. I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was asking. Was like, oh yeah, well, if you already have it in GeForce, why would you want it in your CPU?
well, power, as we said. I mean, I was impressed because it makes sense though. I mean, that's why they have these. That's why you have these modes where you can shut off the discrete GPU because that is a big fat piece of silicon and it's RAM. You're running hot to do this stuff, and definitely if you want crazy eyes effects, you want to do it on the CPU and you want to be on the battery. So,
well, last question: couldn't they have just left the AI out and gave me 2 more cores? Why'd they take away my cores just to fit this AI thing?
oh,
I know that's not how it works.
Yeah, because this.
Well, I guess that is the question. Did they have to lose something in order to put this AI chip in there?
Well, I'm sure they have a budget they use, but it's called you have to get on to the next hot thing. Do people really need 10 cores in a laptop? I mean, maybe some do, but arguably most regular people don't really need that core density. And the race for AI is on, and they made the right choice because if you don't have AI in your product, nobody cares. Wall Street does not care. Investors don't care. And every time they mention AI, I say Ryzen AI here. Every time they print that somewhere, the stock probably goes up 0.01 cent or something like that. Because these investors, I don't, are they really investors? It seems like they're just basically throwing money at, throwing money.
All right. Let's switch over to Q&A. If you got a question and you're watching live right now, put it in the chat and at PC World. If you are listening or watching this later, there's a link in the description to our Full Nerd Discord. We got a question and answer channel over there that you can put a question in, and hopefully I will get to reading it later. We got a couple super chats that I want to get to that I was holding off for later. Skeet Sayer, friend of the show, Skeet Sayer gave us $5.50 Canadian dollars. Thank you so much. Said, I am of the opinion that AI should only be driven for gaming. Am I wrong?
No. I mean, not for you because that's the only thing you care about. But for somebody else, I think they would say you are wrong because we want it for something else. So, I mean, it's a classic. I only care about what I care about.
I'm actually interested in the reasons why it only matters for gaming.
I think they're talking about all the DLSS and
shouldn't
kind
or
of
should
stuff.
be driven only for gaming. That's
well,
why.
it's I don't know. They didn't They didn't specify, but it sounded like, oh, I only care about it for gaming because that's the major use case probably that they're seeing.
I
it in.
see. I
Right.
thought it was more of saying like they had like a whole reasoned argument for why it was best applied to gaming, as opposed to they only saw utility in gaming.
I think it's just the major utility. I mean, NVIDIA's been pushing this for years now. Oh, DLSS frame generation, and now you got a FSR and XeSS and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, there's definitely AI to be had in gaming.
I would argue.
Honest,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, honestly, if they could find a way to make AI effective moderators during online, shall we say, conversations, I think that might be the best use case.
Maybe.
Take a lot of work off of the human moderators.
I would argue that the NVIDIA Ace thing is probably more impactful on gaming. I know it's kind of cool to see it for visual and all that stuff, but I don't think gaming is in need of higher visual quality necessarily. Whereas you would want an open world that you could talk to, where it's populated by 8 million people and you could talk to everybody and do anything, and it feels like you're actually in a world. And that's something that I think AI eventually will improve on gaming. So I think it's just going to make it far richer. It's just going to be weird because I don't know if you can control it easily, right?
I don't know. A friend of the show, VC Jester, gave us a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. It said, has Gordon seen the latest AI fan art by a friend of the show, Ziv? He tweeted it at us.
It was the Oz one?
Yeah,
That
the
was
Wizard of
pretty
Oz. That was pretty
It's
funny.
pretty good.
Yeah.
I was very impressed by like how it was able to get like the angle of the faces.
Yeah. No, that was pretty good. Thank you, Ziv. If you want to see that, hopefully, I think Ziv shared it over on Discord. So
I should ask him if he wants a picture of Splat so he can replace Toto in there.
I just went to Twitter to look for it, and so for some reason it has decided to serve me this tweet from somebody. OpenAI laid me off last Friday. If you know any open position, it's like, really? That like did the actual AI lay you off? It's like, that's the scary thing. So when they're gonna like let the AI start eliminating you, like,
They seem to be not they, but I think some companies are being protective about that. Like I thought I saw a news report earlier today about how Google is banning the use of Bard to generate code. Like basically like do your job. Don't use this tool to do the job for you.
wow. Wait, I was gonna drop the full size image here. I don't know if you have it.
Well, while you're doing that, let me get to another super chat from a friend of the show, Eskamonster. Gave us 20 Danish krone. Thank you so much. Said, have you seen the new NAS with 6 or 12 NVMe SSDs?
The Asus Store one?
I don't know. I've not seen it.
Yeah, I think that was the Asus Store one. It was pretty crazy looking. It because they had one that took 6, and then they had one that took 12, I think. And it looks like a router. It's the size of a router.
It would be crazy to see, a NAS like that small. That would be pretty nice.
Yeah, actually, I had a good conversation. That was Marco. That was the one from Asus Store that was talking to us. Remember they were next to the MSI booth? We ran into him.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
yeah.
I talked to him. I was going to get one in because I generally don't trust NAS units because I've had nothing but the worst luck with multiple units. I just think consumer ones are. I just think the consumer level ones aren't made to last because
you have a grudge against them.
Yeah, because I have a closet full of them that are just dead with my data still locked up on them because they just don't. I would trust a little more with NVMe drives, I guess. But you have to have the backups. I guess you should always set up the backups properly, but
yeah. A couple more questions here from the chat. Pedro Okura managed to snag an Asus TUF 6800 XT for €400. They say it's a good value, so awesome. They have a 650 watt Seasonic Gold, 80 plus gold, and their CPU is an i5 12400. Do you think 650 watts is going to be enough? And I did look it up. A 6800 XT has a power requirement of 300 watts, but they recommend a minimum of 750. And then that i5 is base power 65 watt, turbo power 117 watt. Gordon, what do you think? Do you think that a 650 watt power supply is enough?
What else is in the system?
They didn't say.
No. You generally want to go off the min rec for power supply, but I bet you would be okay.
It is a Seasonic. It's an 80 plus gold. So at least those are good indications.
I can't remember. There was at least one or two GPU reviews. I wish Brad was here, because I think he did test to see like spikeage. Or was that you, Gordon? I can't remember if it was CPU or GPU, but one of you tested to see like the spikes, and because that was more of the concern, right?
Where 30 to 40 series, yeah.
I don't know if he did it on.
Yeah, I don't know if he did.
Yeah, I would actually just see. I don't remember hearing that particular GPU having that issue. But I mean, I think that would be the main concern, wouldn't it? Like, not that it was drawing too much power consistently, but if you had like a big spike,
like
your power supply, like the power supply wouldn't be able to keep up with those.
I don't think so. I honestly think you would be okay. They make the recommendations are very, very rough too, because they don't know what's in your box, right? Because it could be like you have that CPU, you have 16 gigs of RAMs and that graphics card, and that's it. Or you could have 12 fans, enough, RGB lights from a liquor store, and 6 hard drives, and they just don't know. So they generally have a recommendation that is generally, I think, is very conservative. And I would bet I don't know if they have a watt meter or not, but if you looked at it, most of your games you're going to be under 500 watts. But it does depend on what you're doing, and sometimes games that are actually less graphically intensive might actually use more power. So there's things you can do to lower the power of it, but I think you might be okay. Honestly,
yeah, I think it's the spikes. Yeah. I mean, if you can save up for it, that's definitely. It's nice to get a good power supply that's properly spec'd for your system. So
yeah, but it's still, again, it's very much a rough. So,
I mean, would going into undervolt just to optimize power consumption help as well? Like if just say like you couldn't afford to replace the power supply immediately. I mean,
yeah, there's things you can do.
Steps you can take to
limit the frame rate.
Yeah.
Well, they did respond and say mainly gaming, and they have 3 NVMe SSDs.
Yeah, so that's.
Oh, that shouldn't be bad.
I mean, that's. Yeah.
Also, somebody was saying Tech Power Up has transient spikes in the reviews, so maybe look up reviews of that specific card if you can.
Yeah.
All right, moving along. Friend of the show, Newtek says a question: where do restrictions come on AI, where user content processing and privacy are concerned / related?
Are there any? I think that's up to everybody, every service you're using, right?
I mean, what restrictions would you like?
Well, I mean, obviously, as being a normal human, I would want all the power for myself to take advantage of everybody else's work on it, on the language model, and then I would want none of the things that I contribute to make it better for anybody else. Only for me. It's only about me. That would be the way I want it. So I would want to take advantage of this incredibly trained model that everybody else has used all of their content to make, and then I would not want to contribute to it, and I would only want to be able to use it for myself.
Elena, do you have a thought on that?
I'm sorry, I was catching up on the chat, so I missed it.
On Busted. Where do you think the restrictions should be in place for AI?
Like
when it comes to privacy and personal usage?
I mean, I feel like Gordon said, that's the thing that at least at first is going to be a thing that's dictated by the service, and so you'll have to read the terms of use really carefully and pay attention to that if you're concerned about that. My guess is what's going to happen, because that's normally how it goes, is that it's going to be something that's not regulated. It's just going to be kind of something that each service chooses, and you kind of have to figure out how you feel about it from there. And then if something terrible happens, like we just get a bunch of deep fakes showing senators and congress people in compromising positions, then we're going to probably have some kind of government legislation around it at some point.
Yeah, too true. All right, I'm switching over to some of the chatter over on Discord. AI continues to be a hot topic. Who knew? Friend of the show, Q, says, with AI being at the forefront of discussion and VRAM capacity concerns, which vendor do you think will be the first to increase VRAM capacity beyond 24 gigabytes? Also, hypothetically, if text-based prompt interactions with NPCs takes off in place of current meta of choices, can you see yourself liking that type of experience? So, two questions. Who's going to go beyond 24 gigabytes of VRAM? AMD usually offers more, but NVIDIA is all about AI.
Consumer?
Yeah,
Like for
sounds
consumer?
like it. Sounds like it.
It's hard to believe that. Well, I mean, it always goes up, but it just feels like there has to be a provable case for it. I would hope, not just throwing it on there because they want more RAM. So,
I mean, I feel like in a different time and place that maybe we would see some kind of war around that. But I think just given the recovery from pandemic and supply chain and demand and all that, I think it'd be a while before we saw it hit that point. It'd be more dictated by actual need than just being like, yo, we heard you like your VRAM with some VRAM.
Yeah, you do have to realize that, of course, we will surpass 24 gigs because, RAM density just generally gets cheaper and more dense. So that'll happen naturally, but just for AI or just for gaming, I don't know if that's something that can be justified unless it comes naturally, because if you had a 48 gig card, the price is going to go up considerably.
Yeah, but I mean, at least I thought that Jensen could have taken the stage at Computex and was like, hey, new Titan, 40 series Titan, 48 gigs of VRAM. This is the ultimate in if somebody wants to pursue AI and have the best of the best, right?
Right.
Because if you got the money, might as well. $2,500.
Yeah.
48 gigs of VRAM. There you go. Question from Ivan Ramazanov. Ramazanov. Sorry. How do people buy hardware? Do they buy series, as in 40 series in GPU, or S in smartphones, or do they buy in specific price range, or do they buy whatever some random guy on YouTube said to buy?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, people are not a monolith, right? That's the reason why we have so many different products. I think there's definitely those types of buyers, all three types of buyers.
Yeah.
So you're going to have the people who are interested based on the specs because they either are very conscious about that or they just like the bragging rights, which, nothing wrong with that if you have the money for it. Then you have the people who have fixed budgets, so they really have to pay attention to that. And then you have people who are like, man, I don't want to think about this. Do I trust this person? Okay, just tell me what to buy.
A couple more questions and we'll get out of here. Dark Helmet, friend of the show, Dark Helmet, asks, if I can sell my RTX 3080 10 gig for $500 on eBay and get an open box 7900 XTX for $815 from Micro Center, do you think that's a good value upgrade? The game at 4K, and what is your opinion on open box GPUs?
Wait, what's the price difference?
500. If they can sell the RTX 3080 for 500 and buy a 7900 XTX for $815.
Huh.
So 300. If it works out like that, they're essentially saying $300 upgrading from an RTX 3080 to a 7900 XTX.
I would say yes, probably, because I mean the XTX is a decent card at 4K, right? I'm not Brad here, but
yeah,
it definitely is a very decent card for the money at 4K. I would say yes. Again, you do have to recognize you're going from NVIDIA to AMD. There are differences, but that seems like a significant difference in GPU there. If you could really get $500 for 3080 Ti.
Yeah. I mean that was my thing. If you can get 500, I'd I'd be, especially for the 10 gig version. I mean, that's not a bad deal. Maybe you just, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't. Man, I mean, the $300 to move up. I actually, I don't know. That might be pushing it. Unless you're like, you know what, this 3080 is just letting me down right now. Yeah, but 300 for an XTX. I mean, that's not bad. So,
Well, any opinion on the open box stuff there, Elena?
I mean, depends who is selling that open box.
Micro Center is what they said.
Oh, yeah, I think that'd be fine.
Yeah. And then see if the warranty transfers for an open box. Make sure all that.
Yeah.
All right. Couple small form factor questions here. Yeah, get those small form factor questions in. Oh, Gordon's already starting to yawn.
I pushed the microphone away from myself. I don't need to answer anything.
TRC sort of fast says, what's the smallest liter case you've ever considered for a gaming small form factor?
Probably 5 to 7 liters.
Wow. Like a is that a Nook size or?
So there was the Nook that came out at 5 liters. I thought that was pretty good if you didn't mind the price tag. And then I'm about to do a little show and tell here. Give me a second. Is there anything connected to it? Oh, there it is. No momento.
If the screen goes black, we know you unplugged it.
No, I have many PCs at my desk, probably too many. But then I've got this little guy.
Oh yeah.
I feel like this
Nice.
is actually a really fun size for a small form factor.
Yeah. What is the liter on that?
This one is supposed to be like a 7. I'll have to double check.
That is cute. I like it.
Yeah, it fits like a full-size graphics card, if I remember right. Sandwich layout was very useful for that.
And for me, I guess the smallest liter I would go is, I can't find the liters on an ROG Ally or a Steam Deck. So if it's gaming only, handheld,
It's not
is
even
fine
a
for me.
liter. It's
Yeah.
like
I guess I don't know.
No, it's probably, I bet it's about 1 liter.
Maybe.
you could figure it out.
Yeah, no, we
while you're talking with other questions, I'm gonna get the dimensions on that thing.
all right, do it. I think it's hard with the hand grips though, because it's not.
Yeah, it's close enough,
yeah.
right? We're going for approximate.
Anyway, all right. So last series question from who is this? Oh, streamer mode's on, so it just says W. Waddled Gold. Waddled Gold.
Waddled gold.
I just finished a small form factor PC. Awesome, sweet, congrats. It's got a Ryzen 7 5800 and a RTX 4070. They're leaving for university. Yeah, that's a good reason to have a small form factor. The only thing I'm missing is Windows 11 license. I want to know how reputable buying a physical version of Windows 11 Pro retail license off eBay is. I see listings around $75, and anything $100 or below is fine with me. I would consider one off the gray market, but I've heard rumors of gray market keys getting revoked. Yeah. So, should I have any worry about buying physical versions of Windows off eBay in terms of getting keys revoked? Should I get a key off eBay or a cheaper gray market site?
To quickly finish off the last thing, it's one. I think if I did my calculations correct, it's 1.7 liters.
Which one? Yeah, the Steam Deck.
Steam
Or
Deck.
The, oh, okay.
Steam Deck. And Gordon's looking at me, so I feel like that's my cue to take this question or field this
No.
question.
Yeah.
So I would say that whether you're buying a box copy or a code off of eBay, I think the risk is the same, because just because you have the disc or some physical box in your hand doesn't mean that someone can't have used that code already.
True.
So I honestly think that eBay is just kind of a little bit luck of the draw, right? Like you just don't, if you don't know the seller's trusted, if it's not somebody who like Best Buy or Ant Online or something that's selling through eBay as a storefront, you're always going to be kind of rolling that dice a little bit. Gray market, it's kind of a similar story. The only difference is that gray market, it if it's a direct seller as opposed to like a platform like Kingwin or something, then you have an idea of like how reputable the seller is based on like reviews and general internet feedback around that site. Um, uh, this was partially answered in the Discord thread about this. Because you're a university student, honestly, I would see if your college or your university has discounted Windows keys for you. So, like, there was a period of time that City College of San Francisco offered free education licenses to its students. Like, you got one education. Like, Gordon still doesn't understand. He's just like, wait, you're taking classes so you get free Windows keys, and I'm like, it's a benefit of continuing my lifelong education, Gordon.
Hello, fellow students or young people.
It's a junior college. There's people of all ages there, Gordon. I was in a couple of classes with people who were like retirement age, and I thought that was kick butt. Like, it was neat to see that like not everyone gives up on learning.
It's true. Cheap asses come in all ages, is what I've realized.
Gordon, City College of San Francisco doesn't charge tuition. Like, why wouldn't I take advantage of it? Just like leaving education on the table. Anyway, so since you're a university student, you may be able to get a good deal through your university. I would look into that. The other thing is that if you don't think you're going to be moving that retail key around a lot, it may just be worth getting an OEM key for a discount. So I put this in the chat, but for the next 10 hours, there's a Woot deal. So the subsidiary of Amazon, they are selling OEM keys for Windows 10 or Windows 11 Pro for $40, which that's a pretty decent price for that.
Although, I mean,
we've had a similar deal on the PC World software store before.
Yeah.
So, and Woot is a known retailer. So if that key goes bad, you definitely have an avenue for recourse on that.
Yeah. I'll just say I have bought a fair share of keys off of gray market sites, and I usually don't have any problems with it. So
most people usually don't, but it's just if you're concerned about it, then there are other ways to be a little more secure in your purchase.
Yeah,
I get it. Like when you're at university, you don't have a lot of money, so you want to make sure you're not going to set yourself up for a lot of headache.
Yeah, but doesn't it seem like it's weird because all these keys are so cheap now and they've been around for so many years. It does feel like Microsoft is just simply looking the other way. And like I don't understand it because if they were actually kind of sketchy, you would think that they would not be around after being in business for 6 or 7 years, but they continue to sell the keys. So I'm going to guess they're fairly legit, which just makes you wonder what exactly is going on in the back end here.
I wonder if it's still like a product of the whole like initial we want 1 billion users in the first year of Windows 10, right? So like they had the whole free thing. So I wonder if like there's some kind of in the background, there's some kind of initiative maybe or like a legacy feature of, or like just a legacy of that where they're just like we care more about having users and a large user base and then maybe just selling services to them because that seems to be the model, right? We're all complaining constantly about how there are more ads popping up in the operating system for like, hey, have you signed in to Microsoft like OneDrive? Do you want to sign up for Office 365 subscription? Hey, like, that kind of stuff.
I really, I wouldn't really consider those ads.
They're annoying.
They're annoying. They are annoying.
Yeah, I don't care what you call them. They suck.
But I mean, like when I think ads, I think of like, certain technology websites that you go to without web blockers or ad blockers, right? That's ads, right? This is like Microsoft trying to sell you Microsoft stuff or trying to extend a service, which Google and Apple and everybody does all day on their platforms. So
it's more annoying, I feel like, because if you pay for it, you don't feel like you're supposed to be getting upsold on additional services and products. It'd be different if it was a truly free or very, very low cost thing, right? Where it's like, okay, I paid $10 for access to this operating system. And I know that as part of that, I'm just going to have to accept the fact that they're going to push their other services on me because that's how they're going to make their money, and if I wanted to never see those again, I pay an extra, I don't know, $40 kind of like how Amazon does with Kindle. They put fairly unobtrusive advertisements, quote unquote, on their Kindles with ads, and you pay an extra $20, and then you never have to be bothered again.
Well, did you pay the full list price for Windows 11
Uh,
or Windows 10?
I mean, I did for my initial copy of it.
Or yeah, so I'm just like, yeah, we know you didn't pay the full price. In fact, you're one of those people that's taking that community college course. So no,
Hey.
would you like to sign
that
up
one
for
is
Office
legit,
365?
That's super
Yeah, that
legit,
one's
though.
legit.
They have a whole agreement in place for that.
Anyway, we got one more serious question that came in. Elena, if you need to pop off, feel free, because I have a feeling Gordon might run into a rant on this one.
I
Friend of the
might just disappear
Yeah.
because I got to give the cat a shot.
Use the crazy
if
eyes
you
and
need
just
to.
pretend to
Yeah.
look.
Friend of the show, Bori Zero says, with reports of cable mod angled adapters melting, is it finally time to call that piece of poop 12-volt high power connector a piece of poop connector for the piece of poop that it really is? Or should we
That's
give
not
it
a
another
poop
8 months of pretending that there's nothing wrong with it and it's just user error?
Well, I wouldn't. I really tried to shy away from calling it user error because but not fully inserted still continues to be the main reason for all of the failures that we've seen from NVIDIA and out of the cable mods. Their formal statement was the majority of them were from, improper insertion. That's not the same as calling it user error. The question is, and I still, again, I don't think it's case closed. We do know that most people were not, they occurred because they weren't fully inserted, whether that's because it got pulled out during cable management or something. I don't know. The question is, why is this still happening, especially after all the attention on it? Is this potentially because we have 20 to 30 to 40 different vendors of power supplies and cables and adapters that are all making things, and everything is a little out of spec? Is it the original spec that should have been tighter so that, because, again, you've seen it in every single 12-volt high power. You push it in, you could pull it out 1 to 2 millimeters, which can cause a problem under high loads. Should that have been accounted for? You would hope so. So I don't think, and again, let's restate this, but it has been tested by people over and over and over again that the actual connectors themselves electrically are up to snuff. People have tested this. Many different people have tested it independently, and they could not melt them. So it does look like it's mostly from insertion. The question is, why the hell is the insertion the problem here? And I don't know what the answer is. More education, more people getting used to it. Is this the example is when we moved from pin grid array to LGA, people bent the hell out of their Intel boards. They kept bending them. It took a long time for people to get used to, like, look, this thing is not like PGA. You just can't bend it back. You trash that whole board, right? These days, I think most people are pretty comfortable with it. People are still destroying them, but is it something we just have to get used to? The reality is push the 12-volt high power cable in, pull it back to make sure it's locked, push it back in again to make sure it's fully seated. And you shouldn't be able to push it back in is the argument, but at the same time, as a use case, just push it back in, make sure it's seated. And by the way, you do all your cable management to make it look pretty and all that. Go back, check the 12-volt high power on the GPU, and if you have it on the power supply, make sure it's fully seated. In fact, check all of them, because as much as people say it never happened with 8-pin, 6-pin, it did actually happen. Rare cases, but usually mining. So very, very heavy use, and they'd melt them. So it did happen. But still, we don't really know what exactly is going on. Is it just tolerance slop? Is it, bad manufacturing? Is it people that are they wiggling out when they're being shipped? Is it people, they're correcting wires or they're closing the doors and they push it out? I don't know what's going on, but if you ask me, it's still something worth following and looking at. In fact, I even updated my story after 3 months of going dormant because nobody cared about it. Now with the cable mods thing, people are now paying attention again. There was a power supply, that one incident, that power supply had a meltdown on the power supply end. So it's definitely worth something paying attention to. But again, don't jump to conclusions. Remember, 4090s came out. They shipped, their estimate was 125,000 in the first month. They had, 40 go bad or 40 melt? We've obviously had 4090s now for 6 months now, and there's definitely more than 125,000 out there. So I don't know what it is, but people just need to be very, very mindful of it. Like, make sure the damn thing is fully inserted when you button that case up. I think that's the safest thing to do right now.
That seems still like a lot to ask because like if it is caused by something as simple as I put the side panels back on my PC and that kind of jostled the cable a little and that caused it to come out just enough to create that opportunity for problems. I think that's quite a lot to ask of people to obsess over to make sure they don't accidentally melt something in their system.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that is the case. I'm just saying without us knowing what that is, that just a little scary.
Well,
Yeah.
Also, side note, there's probably, so the thing is, I don't think there's a one-to-one that if it is improperly inserted, it will melt. I don't think anybody's saying it's a one-to-one. I bet there's plenty of 4090s out there that have improper insertion that aren't melting. So it's not like, oh, if it's improperly inserting, no matter what, it's going to melt. So it's just like,
Yeah.
There's still variables trying to figure this out. So it's, I don't know. I mean, should it have been a better design? Who knows? I will say that Hardware Busters had an article recently about the 12-volt high power connector melting on the PSU side. You can go read that article, but at the end of it, Aris says, according to my sources, the PCIe SIG plans to take measures to ensure the proper connections for 12-volt high power connectors. Unfortunately, I cannot reveal more since I am not a leaker, but something is already in the works. So I'm sure people are talking about this, and there will be more to come. What that means, we don't know.
Right. And is it a great design? Obviously, it's not optimal. And in the PC industry and most industries, oftentimes you adopt a standard that is not the best one out there. And it's adopted. I don't think there's much that can be changed at this point. They're going to probably, it sounds like they're going to
12-volt high power 2.0.
I mean, is it, if they think it's problematic enough to change it? The problem now, of course, is now you have the hundreds of thousands of people that have existing hardware. What do? Right? And then it creates its own problem because now it's like, well, you have this flawed design. Now, do we get the lawyers involved? The lawyer's going to make this fun. And I don't know. But I do think, yeah, it ain't good. It's not perfect. But, you also have to separate the anger theories from reality. And the reality is electrically, it does work. Whether this is whether the adapters and whether the cables are being built poorly or not, I don't know. But who knows? Yeah, I know it kind of sucks. But at the same time, people are saying we should have stuck with 8-pin, 6-pin. I don't know. Because if you looked at 8-pin, 6-pin to get 600 watts, that is a hell of a lot of space. So 12-volt high power is significantly smaller. It's more compact. Could it be better? Yeah, sure. Could certainly be better. So I wouldn't say it was the wrong pursuit, but if you go back over the history of the PC, plenty of stupid-ass things have been adopted that didn't work out to be the best, and then they run into the problems while you're there. So it is worth paying attention to, and I think it's a very real issue. I would love to know what is going on with the cable mod thing, because it is odd that it is all from one company. I mean, they themselves are saying this. I'm not seeing a lot of reports from power supply vendors, like people are posting pictures of their melted connectors elsewhere. It does make you wonder if they had some kind of, and they have said that most of them are insertion, and then some of them were actually manufacturing issues. But it is a little strange to see 20 to 30 cases, if that. I don't know. Yeah. But, again, this is something where everybody needs to pay attention to it, but just don't freak the hell out, and don't just start screaming crazy things into the night too. So hopefully we push everybody to come up with a solution that works.
Yep. All right. Last fun question to end on, or at least fun for me. Friend of the show, Old Mean Brian, said, "What's better, Dunkin' Donuts or Krispy Kreme?" I've never tried Dunkin' before, but because the price is usually more than Krispy Kreme, I never bothered. Should I go out of my way to try Dunkin'? Wait, did we ask this last time?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we talked about coffee last time.
Yeah,
not
we were
the
talking about
donuts.
coffee.
I think this question was born of the coffee discussion.
Oh, okay.
I would say they're the same.
Donuts?
They're both fast food, mass-produced donuts.
No, the donuts are way different.
What?
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one.
What you're saying
The
that
actual donuts themselves. I'm not talking about the coffee.
no, the donuts
a
are
separate
just
thing.
to me, but there's the same level of like, aren't they? They're just basically fast food donuts, don't you think?
No.
Oh, them fighting words. You're talking
Well,
to a
look.
donut connoisseur here.
Wait.
I mean, that's just like saying every car is the same because it has 4 wheels.
Well, you could argue, a Toyota Corolla and whatever a Honda Fit
Civic.
or Civic are like, it's. I mean, are you really gonna like? You're gonna be like, yeah, I got this. No, you're not gonna. It's like it's a car, gets you to work.
Well, as a
does it
Civic owner-
reliably.
Just kidding.
But people have opinions on it still, Gordon.
I'm just thinking that.
if you had 2 donuts side by side
Oh boy.
and tasted them without knowing which was which, I think you could tell that, wow, one is from a different place than the other. Definitely.
I think it's like arguing the difference between a Big Mac
And a Whopper?
A Whopper.
Are you saying you couldn't tell the difference between a Big Mac and a Whopper?
What I'm saying is the level
You just
of
said
difference.
that.
No,
The
I
level
could-
of difference. There's a big difference.
They're
on that,
basically
Gordon.
the same.
There's a big difference.
They're essentially the same. They're basically fast food hamburgers, and those are fast food
No,
donuts.
they're not the same,
They're
Gordon.
not the same. Yes,
They're
okay,
effectively
wait,
the
wait,
same.
Hold
Do
on,
you not
hold
have
on,
taste
hold on.
buds,
There's-
Gordon?
Okay, no, I know what he's saying. He's saying that they're both fast food hamburgers. You're right. They are both fast food hamburgers. But if you had 2 of them in front and I told you and I didn't tell you which was which, you tasted both, you'd be able to tell the difference.
Yeah, I could tell the difference, and could I tell the difference? It's like saying
So
which
yes.
is better, red or blue. There's like it doesn't matter to me. I don't give a damn because
Okay.
there's like the same
Okay, so
thing.
you don't
It's like-
care. That's the answer. You
Yeah,
don't
because
care.
they're both.
But
they're
there is
just,
a difference.
They're both schlocky
He's a
fast food
snob.
donuts.
Gordon is a snob. That's
No,
why.
and then what are you talking about? I actually eat Whoppers and Big Macs, so I'm not a fast food snob. I'm saying I don't get like, oh, I'm not gonna have my Big Mac. And like,
Davina,
oh yeah, one is 1.88 and this is 1.89. It's like you have the Excel scale set incorrectly, where it looks like there's not a difference here.
IB fan 814 says, "Does Gordon have taste buds?" No, I don't know
There's
if he
no there's
does.
I just don't get why get excited about it. It's not like
Davina says Tuesday is the same as Wednesday. They're both days.
that is true actually. What's the difference? But I mean, you're not talking about like, oh, tell me the difference between a Big Mac and some gourmet burger, right? Like a Big Kahuna burger. That's different.
Gordon just doesn't want to answer the question.
Okay.
Because they're like look, if I took
Okay, he would have neither.
let me tell you about them. What the hell the ones that
And yes, there are fancier.
the ones that are the ones that come out of that people got crazy here, Krispy Kreme, right? Is that the one? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, Krispy Kreme versus Dunkin'. Yes.
Because like to me, you put them both in a box and sell them in a Safeway, or it's like the same thing. It's like a fast.
They're-
It's like
oh my God, they're not the same thing, Gordon. Just because you have 2 things that are in the same class of something doesn't make them the same.
I think he's saying he just can't tell the difference between the two, and he doesn't have a preference.
they're so below me. Like even
Oh.
getting angry.
You just said you weren't a snob. You just said you weren't a snob. You
Yep,
absolutely
you
have
just
not
No, I'll
proven
eat
yourself
them.
wrong.
I'm just saying there's just so like who cares? It's just like it's the most ridiculous argument in the world. It's like arguing what's better, this bad movie or that bad movie. Well, they both suck. So I mean, not gonna get any
Well,
better.
Elena, is there one you would rather have?
I
than the other?
cannot actually answer this question because I have not had Dunkin'
Oh, you haven't?
Donuts before.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I will say I would prefer a Dunkin' Donut over a Krispy Kreme. Krispy Kreme is probably a more even donut. Like I feel like there's tighter quality controls on the Krispy Kreme, but
Oh,
the style of Dunkin' Donut is better, or I prefer it. It's more cakey with the frosting having the majority of the sugar versus Krispy Kreme, which is just sugar all throughout. Which I love sugar, but I like a little balance.
Like for the Krispy Kreme, it's got to be like if it's not warm,
Oh,
So-
hot off the line.
That's
Ooh,
when it's good.
That is crazy.
but like
Yeah.
you drive down the block and like 30 minutes later, it tastes like the Entenmann donut you get at the store, right? And it's no difference.
Also, Retro Sean. Here's I agree with them. It's like is cake versus pie. Two different things in my mind for
oh,
sure.
interesting. I didn't realize. Again, because I haven't had Dunkin' Donuts. However, I would say that I'm actually not a sweet donut person.
Oh, okay.
I prefer. I guess I don't know if it's technically a donut, but that's what we call it in English. But there's the Chinese donuts, they're like savory. Like you're meant to eat them with like rice porridge. I like those a lot. Even when they're cold, they're still pretty good.
Those are good. Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
I mean, but yes, I do agree with Gordon that they're not my top 10 donuts. They're not the donuts I would go to if I'm like, oh, we need a donut. I mean, unless it's the easiest option. But yeah, like they're lower on the totem pole for sure. But there is a difference.
Yeah, there's a difference. One is a Krispy Kreme. One is from Dunkin' Donuts. That's the difference.
I should try this blind taste test. And you'd be like, that's the same donut.
No, I can tell the difference. I just don't think it's like, it's ridiculous. It's like, it doesn't get that much better. It's like you're arguing like, oh, this is like so much better. I think
this coming from the person who's like, yeah, let's talk about in detail. I've got like 15 charts just for starters, so that we can talk about this one laptop chip that has 10 cores versus this other laptop chip in the same class that has 8 cores.
Yeah, but
I've got 30 more charts though, if we have time for it.
And there's an argument for the average person. It doesn't matter, right? Like, frankly, they just buy whatever they want. But there is definitely a difference. Now,
a donut burger.
If you're trying to explain somebody which donut to buy, are you going to get all like, I don't know. It just.
I'd say the easiest donut is the best donut in my mind.
I just think it's
because sometimes what are the pack that you get the little white cake donuts,
the Entenmann brands, yeah. Hostess.
You know what? They are by no way the best donuts at all.
Ew.
Like I'd call that, oh boy, like close to cardboard, the taste of. But you know what? If it's right there and I'm like, I feel like a donut. Okay, I'll eat one. That's for damn sure.
It's also known as desperation, my friend.
But that's what I'm saying is like, I'm sorry that there isn't like, there's nothing special about Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts necessarily. It's not like, again, it's like there's nothing special about a Big Mac or Whopper, but sometimes you want a Whopper, sometimes you want a Big Mac.
Man, I gotta make a poll. Good, thank you, Davina.
It's true. We should make a poll.
Also, it's a difference. Somebody had asked this before. I can't remember who had asked this before. Like because there's a difference between yeast donut and a. God, I can't find it. All right.
Donut expert.
Anyway, yeah. Which donut do you like more? Krispy Kreme. I'm just gonna abbreviate them. KK for Krispy Kreme, DK for Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know why. I should have said DD. Duh. God. Anyway, I'm hungry. And Mr. Self Improvement says, as somebody from the Southeast, home of Krispy Kreme, I vastly prefer the filled crispy donuts. Krispy Kreme are glazed and filled with donuts, while Dunkin' are cake donuts. That's for the layman. That's the difference. One is more cakey. One is more like yeasty and I'm sorry, not yeasty. Sugary, creamy.
Well, let me tell you, the Big Mac
sugary
has two all sausage beef patties, 3 buns, special sauce.
Yeah. Oh man, wow. Escamonster says that they are 48 and they've never had a donut.
Wow. That's pretty good. Keep going.
I guess.
Are they just not common in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, I would love to hear why. It says no regrets. I will. You know what? Since we're all here, I'm 41 and I've never been on a roller coaster. No regrets.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah, no regrets.
But you don't like roller coasters, right? Like
I've never been on one, so I can't necessarily say like yes or no. But the idea of it does not appeal to me. So
I know there's it's very polarizing. Some people are very like, I don't want my feet off the ground. I love roller coasters.
So yeah, maybe that's Escamonster's feeling. Let us know. Anyway, the poll at 46 votes. We got to get out of here. Which donut do you like more? Krispy Kreme is leading with 67%, where Dunkin' Donuts is 32%.
Oh wow, that's
and which do you say is better?
I like Dunkin' Donut better. Yeah. But it's not a 50-50 split. It's not like people are like, whatever, same thing. Oh man, I should have put a third option. Same thing.
Well, two-thirds favor the Krispy Kreme. And again, Krispy Kreme, when it's like warm, is pretty good. But I swear to God, once it's cold, it is no difference than the Entenmann donut that you get.
Krispy Kreme.
Or a Hostess pie.
Dunkin' Donut. Or
wow.
I'm going to put a third option for the same.
Sid Lives is bringing out the other hard question, which is KFC versus Popeyes.
Oh, Popeyes. Although
I
KFC is-
know. I had
it depends.
somebody who said, like, no way, KFC. And I was like, you must have had way better KFC franchises in your neck of the woods, because here it's just like definitively
I mean,
Popeyes.
100%. It always depends on the store you go to. That's for damn sure. I mean, for the chicken sandwich, definitely Popeyes. But for the actual chicken itself, I'd probably prefer KFC.
You know, the original is good sometimes.
It's just, it is what it is, right? It's like a Big Mac. It is what it is. It's not
Yeah.
the best burger, but if you have that yearning for, a Big Mac, there's nothing else that can satisfy that.
Yeah, there's sometimes you have to have it. It's like something they built into your DNA at this point.
All right, you know what? We need to turn this off. I think people are just effing with me now.
Why?
We got votes. I put Krispy Kreme, Dunkin' Donuts, and the third option is the same. 26%. 27% of the people say it's the same. You know what? I'm going to end this stream right. Gordon, get us out of here. I'm done. I'm done. I'm spent.
Check back next week for your fix of PC Talk on the Full Nerd. For audio listeners, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or Stitcher. And if you're on one of those services, please leave a review. Every time you do, someone decides that fast food donuts are no different. Send questions and comments to thefullnerd@pcworld.com. Thanks for coming. I'm Gordon Ung with Lainey E.
I am firmly Team Popeyes.
And Adam Patrick Murray doesn't understand that fast food donuts are all the same.
You're right. I'm going to turn this bus around. You kids, shut up back there, will you?